tip. I'm so excited.
But let's keep it together. At least until the first death.
I hope your front door is locked and your phone is switched off. It's match time. And nothing can come in the way of a head coach and his Blood Bowl.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Blood Bowl 2 2016 World Cup Grand Final, brought to you by Focus Home Interactive and Asus Republic of Gamers. 4 months ago began the biggest Blood Bowl tournament in history with the biggest prize fund ever announced for Blood Bowl. 3 months of qualifying, 1 month of a tournament, and finally 2 teams remain standing at the end of it. Mallak, the experienced Skaven coach from a variety of Blood Bowl formats, and Guinness, the Lizardman coach who only began playing when Blood Bowl 2 was released. It's an experienced coach versus a relative newcomer who will come out on top tonight. Just a reminder, these guys are not just playing for pride. The top prize that one of them will be taking home at the end of tonight's match is $4,500 in cash, an exclusive Blood Bowl 2 branded gaming PC, and monitor, headphones, mousepad, keyboard, and all accessories courtesy of Asus Republic of Gamers, a 1-year NAF membership, and the Focus Selection Pack on Steam. Joining me today, as always, are Crendor.
Hello, I'm
Sage,
back.
Hey there, guys.
kKnoor.
Hello.
And VG Purist.
What's going on, guys? So, kKnoor, before you said that you had maybe a change of heart and prediction, what are you still going with Skaven? What's going on?
I'm still going with Skaven. For 2 reasons. I genuinely believe Skaven will take this. And also, if Crendor is hardcore into Lizardmen, I feel like I have to be hardcore into Skaven. So
I pick Lizardmen just because I'm biased.
yeah, I mean, you're wrong, but we should get out because the game is live.
Lewis, Sage?
The game is starting. Yes.
Right, so the first half is going to be brought to you by myself and Sage. At half-time, we'll be switching over to kKnoor and Crendor. This is the World Cup 2016 for Blood Bowl 2. These guys are playing for $4,500 in cash and a brand new PC with all the accessories. We will jump into the action now. Guinness coaching Razzle Dazzle Root Beer, the Lizardman team, and Mallak with his Skaven team. The Eshin Red Raiders, I believe they're called. It's not popped up for me.
Well,
So
I will say real
is
quick, I do like the
defending
lizard. Sorry about that.
No worries. So we see that Guinness is setting up his defense with the lizards and that he has, in fact, induced a wizard. So that should be a very formidable defense already. And,
Absolutely no surprise
in a moment,
there,
we're
is
going
it?
to see the rats set up their bashing.
Yep. Now, do we know who won the toss? Because that's always quite interesting. I would imagine the Lizards won the toss because the Skaven would probably kick while they've still got a full team.
Yes, especially when they're up against the wizard. I don't think they're too eager to start off on offense.
We can see the Lizards adopting the ceremonial safety setup, which is actually one of the built-in setups, but is also a setup that a lot of good coaches do use because it protects the weak link of the Skaven team, the Skinks. Very few teams can actually go toe-to-toe with Lizardmen in terms of punching, so they will often try and target the softer Skinks and remove the ball handling capability of the Lizardman team. Interesting to see that 3 of the 6 Saurus have leveled up and taken the block skill, which is nice. That makes them a lot more reliable when punching the other team. You'll often hear coaches and commentators talking about 1 in 9s, which means failing something 1 in 9 times. And Lizardmen are one of the teams that suffer from it the worst because their Skinks fail dodges on a 1 in 9 and their Saurus and Croxigor fail blocks on a 1 in 9 generally. So by taking the block skill, it increases the reliability of the Saurus blocking to 1 in 36.
Indeed, the lizards are very dangerous to play for that reason early on, but once they get going, they become a lot more reliable and a lot more dangerous.
To me, that's what made Lizard such an interesting choice for a single elimination knockout tournament, because there was always the danger that you get hit by the 1 in 9s in your first game and you never get a chance to develop your team to the level where it needs to be. But Guinness obviously didn't fear that, and here he is.
Then again, if you look at their performance against a lot of races, they still do really, really well, even at Rookie TV with no block at all. The brute amount of strength that they bring to the pitch can really help dominate and lock down a lot of the weaker teams.
The Skaven here are looking to throw the blocks on the LOS and utilise the guard players, I imagine.
That's the line of scrimmage for new viewers.
When you set up in Blood Bowl, there are certain limitations to how you can set up your team. You must at all times have at least 3 players on the line of scrimmage, and you can have no more than 2 players in the wide zones. Now, if you only have 3 players, they have to all go on the LOS or line of scrimmage. And if you're receiving, you get the first turn, which means you get to throw the first punches, which is very important for certain teams.
I screwed up. I know. Hang on.
Right, so again, both coaches will have 4 minutes to do all of their stuff, whether it's setting up, taking their turns. And with this much money on the line, they will often be taking the full 4 minutes, particularly on taxing turns.
Oh, that's gotta hurt.
We open with a perfect defense. Now, for you guys watching at home, the team that is receiving gets to set up second. So the kicking team has to set up first, and the other team gets to set up to counter them. With a perfect defense, the kicking team then gets to reset up, which means they can now counter the counter and set up in a way that benefits them.
And importantly, the way the Skaven set up, they were pretty safe against the blitz, which means that the lizards would get basically an extra turn, but they were very, very vulnerable specifically to a perfect defense because they have these 2 line rats standing on the sidelines here, which might actually complicate matters for them a lot in terms of getting into a safe position. Now, the lizards appear to be setting up very defensively rather than swarming down the Skaven and trying to force them to make unfavorable blocks. They are simply avoiding the rat ogre and the guard in the center in order to give up as few good blocks as possible.
I think the 2 guard in the middle have prevented him from completely countering them. I wouldn't mind the 2 Lizardsaurus on the inside being placed right against those line rats on the outside, because as you said, it's quite an unfavorable block because he needs 2 assists just to make it. But again, Guinness has decided to play a little bit more cautious, similar to how we saw in the first game. Coaches being slightly more cautious.
I would have expected him to try and drag these line rats at the front into a fight, because both the Skaven blitzers are on the line of scrimmage, which means the skinks are at much less of a risk of being blitzed here.
Yeah, so he can afford to take a bit more risk and put a bit more pressure on the Skaven, because Skaven only have agility 3, which means to dodge away from the lizards, they need to roll a 3 or more on a single dice, a 33% failure chance. When it comes to the Croxigor, the Lizardman big guy, because of his long tail, that increases to a 4+, so a 50-50 chance of falling over and ending your turn. So we don't expect to see him trying to dodge away from this very easily.
And because the Storm Vermin with Guard is still stuck on a Saurus there, the Croxigor is also relatively safe from the Line Rat, because it is next to impossible to get an assist on that Croxigor from the outside here.
Yeah, he would have to risk a 1 dice with the lineman and get a push or better, and then he would have to move his Storm Vermin in just for his Rat Ogre to take the hit, and that's exposing the Storm Vermin. That's just not ideal, is it?
No, he could really, really make life hard for the Skaven. This is really the thing about lizards. Their strength advantage is so huge that if you get stuck in with all your agility 3 players, then you're often looking at tricky 1-die blocks in order to disconnect at all. The gutter runners can get away, but the gutter runners are not the ones that are getting tied up here.
No, exactly. The gutter runners are what you deal with once you've killed everyone else in this situation, because with no tackle, it's quite difficult for the lizards to deal with them.
Yes, it's not uncommon to see a Skaven team with all their line rats injured and all their gutter runners still intact.
So it looks like Guinness is still, he seems to be second guessing himself a little bit here, keeps changing his setup, but you can't begrudge him the full 4 minutes, and that is his final setup. So he has chosen to put big guy against big guy in the center and leverage his strength advantage. He's got to be wary of the guard guys though, because if they reposition, he could take some blocks. It looks like they're going to start clearing from the right. So he's going to get a 2 dice block using the Storm Vermin to clear the first Saurus. And that will enable him to get a 2 dice block with his Rat Ogre onto the Croxigor.
I'm a bit surprised that Guinness left Mallak enough room to do this, because the squares where the assists are now could have been in the tackle zone of a Saurus here, which would have made it even harder to get that 2 die, and he might have needed to blitz the Saurus off first, which he really doesn't have the resources for.
In my opinion, he wasn't aggressive enough. I think he should have been more aggressive here and stopped the Skaven repositioning at all. Mark those other 2 up. So this will just be a push because neither player has block. Also, you'll notice if the Rat Ogre goes down, if the Croxigor goes down, sorry, he's in quite a good position to be fouled.
That is correct. As things stand right now, he's already got 4 assists on that potential sorry, 3, because the Rat Ogre will be in a tackle zone.
And Wild Animal.
Oh.
Absolute disaster.
So most big guys, or actually just about all big guys, need to do a roll before they're allowed to act. In the case of the Rat Ogre, this is a wild animal roll. This means if he blocks or blitzes, it's a 4+, so a 50-50 chance. But if he does not block or blitz, sorry, now that he chose to block, it was a 2+ roll, which means he only fails in a 1 in 6 chance, which he just did. And that's got to be pretty dreadful for Mallak there, because he really needs to get rid of those guys standing next to his armor 7, ready to hit him over the head.
Now, the interesting thing to note when you talk about the Rat Ogre versus the Croxigor is they have different negative traits. The wild animal has a tendency to go wild more often when you try to move him, which means that you are unable to move him at all. However, he still maintains his tackle zone. Whereas if the Croxigor fails a bonehead check, he loses his tackle zone completely and effectively becomes useless apart from blocking the space he's in.
Exactly. So they do both have the prehensile tail, which means dodging away from them is harder. But importantly, the Croxigor has armor value 9 and bonehead, making it a much better roadblock type player, whereas the Rat Ogre really is more for blitzing with his frenzy.
He also has thick skull, making the Croxigor a lot more resilient. Okay, so he did choose to put his Storm Vermin on the line here. I'm not sure I like that play so early. Obviously, he felt it was important to get the Croxigor out the way.
Well, he's up against a single block with no Mighty Blow, and the alternative would be to allow the Croxigor to really maul through his lines there. So I think it was a valid play. He could have tried it with the 1 die, settled for a push most likely, but I think this was solid.
My only concern would have been if he'd have only pushed with the 2 dice, then the Croxigor gets to hit his Storm Vermin.
That is definitely true, and he'd probably get 3 dice block on that as well. Maybe we should go into that briefly. So the way this works for the people who don't know the game that well, if you have more strength than your opponent does in a block, then you are allowed to roll 2 dice for that block and choose which result applies to it. So you choose the more favorable one. However, if you have more than double the strength of your opponent, you get to roll 3 dice and pick the best result. Now, where this becomes more interesting is that allied players can assist on that, adding a +1 to the strength on your side of things, assuming they're not in a tackle zone themselves. That's where the guard skill comes in that we see here on both that Storm Vermin and the Rat Ogre. That skill means that you're allowed to assist on a block even if you are yourself in a tackle zone.
We just saw our first 1 in 9 for the Lizardmen. However, they were fortunate enough that it was the Saurus number 2 who has block. So he does not need to consume a reroll. He does not turn over. Another interesting thing about Guinness's team is even after 7 games, he's still playing with 2 rerolls, which some might consider risky for a Lizardman team with only 3 block and no sure hands.
It is normally kind of risky, but given the format of the World Cup, where every game matters so much, and you're only in it for a couple of games, I think the focus on having the money available to induce a wizard is more important than having an extra reroll, because not having the reroll saves you team value, which means the wizards gets cheaper, and it saves you treasury, which means that you have money left to actually buy that wizard if you don't have enough in base inducement value.
As you called it, he did opt to use the cKnoor 3-dice blitz on the guard Storm Vermin. However, he was unable to take him down, and he uses the cKnoor to tie up 4 of the Skaven players, which is great value for him. And with the 2 Saurus to the side, it's very difficult for the Skaven to block him back. They may take They may take a 2-dice uphill block, which isn't outrageous when you're playing block versus non-block. You will see a lot of people 2 red dice uphill against a big guy at the end of their turn. Going back to the 2 reroll situation though, I would have probably preferred to see sure hands rather than block on the skink if he was going to continue playing with 2 rerolls. Just to give him a bit more reliability in picking up the ball.
I think block on a skink is really, really good in a number of situations. I think the main reason that people like sure hands over block on a skink is not so much preserving rerolls, although it's very good for that as well, but it is to prevent the threat of strip ball. Now, since these Skaven don't have strip ball yet, I can see why block would be better. But if the Skaven were to skill up a strip ball during this match, then I do think Guinness will wish he had taken sure hands instead.
I can definitely see the advantages of block. However, skinks aren't particularly difficult to get 3 dice on. And 3 dice with a reroll gives you quite a good chance of getting him down, even with blodge.
Well, you know, a skink standing somewhere by himself is not difficult to get 3 dice on. But if you're Skaven, then and playing against lizards, then quite often the only players who can freely move around are the gutter runners with their strength 2. So not having your agility 3 players available to move around with makes getting 3 dice on a skink quite difficult, I think.
He needs all 4 gutter runners to do it. So now it's Mallak's turn, and he's got a bit of a situation here. He's got 2 line rats and a storm vermin tied up on the crocs in a very bad position. I think he has to try and get them free one way or the other. But at the same time, he has to protect the ball, because at some point the skinks will be looking for an opportunity to run through his line and steal the ball, especially with that wizard in hand.
At the moment, the ball is still just out of reach for the skinks, so that's kind of favorable. However, the Saurus, who is positioned all the way on the right, could at the moment get chain pushed off and blitz the ball, so he definitely wants to solve that situation as soon as possible. However, starting your turn with a rat over blitz is of course very dangerous, so what he does is he makes sure that Saurus cannot get anywhere before he tries anything else.
Yeah, he obviously spotted that was the key threat here. Here comes the Rat Ogre now. So it's going to be a 2-dice blitz. And it's double skulls.
Oh.
A 1 in 36 chance of that happening. And not only does he opt not to use a reroll, he gets his Rat Ogre KO'd.
Is he going to Apo this?
Now, this is the 4th time we've seen Mallak on stream Apoing that Rat Ogre, which shows us how much he values him. Now, for you guys at home, obviously the team always has access to a set number of rerolls per turn. So if they get a roll they don't like, they have the opportunity to use a reroll and try it again. However, the big guys both have the loner trait, which means they can only use the team rerolls if they first pass a loner check, which means rolling 4+ on a single dice. So it's a 50-50 chance that your reroll is effectively wasted. That's why he chose not to reroll that and instead take the hit.
It's very good that he placed that gutter runner there to prevent that Saurus blitz. Otherwise, he would be in even more trouble. But you have to imagine that this is going to be some serious positional advantage for the Lizardmen. We might even see some pressure on the ball for next turn here.
We're going to see a lot of Skaven getting punched first off. And the key the key, I would say, for Guinness and the Lizardmen is going to be getting that diving tackle guy onto the ball.
I anticipate that the wrestle gutter runner will get a 3-die on him after this. Oh, well, since this guy doesn't go down, it might not become a 3-die.
No, he opts to stay where he is and keep it as a 3-die.
Well, if he goes down, or even if he doesn't go down, he can still follow up with the second Saurus to make sure that that line rat is still in a tackle zone. I wonder what he'll do about the center guys, though. The 3-die is no use. So
see, I would have liked to have seen him push both guys towards the outside and create a gap for his skinks to run through there.
Maybe, but the skinks can have enough movement. They're not going to get to the ball this turn, so that he can just swing around if he wants and put them almost anywhere he likes. This might be a good time to talk about the block dice themselves for people who are watching this for the first time. So over on the bottom of the screen, you can still see what he just rolled. The skull means that the player throwing the block goes down himself. The skull and the star icon, the POW, means that both players go down unless they have block. So that's the hand stopping icon that you see on a lot of players here. And the third one, the star with the exclamation mark in it, means defender stumbles. That means that the player getting blocked will be knocked down unless he has the dodge skill. In this case, you can see over on the gutter runner that he has both dodge, which they start with, and wrestle. And in this case, dodge would prevent him from getting knocked down on this POW push result or this defender stumbles result, whereas wrestle would mean that he could actually drag the Saurus down with him if he likes to, but then neither of them would roll armor and there would be no turnover.
So it looks like he is going to get the Crocs hitting the Blodge Step Gutter Runner. This could be huge. If he gets an injury here, this is insane because the Apo is gone. Luckily for him, the Gutter Runner armor holds. They have one of the lowest armor ratings in the game, but it does hold.
Yeah, so this is really one of his most valuable players. I would say maybe even his most valuable player. And the cKnoor, like almost all big guys, has the Mighty Blow skill, which means you get a +1 on both, or on either the armor roll, or if it's not used there, on the injury roll. So the chance of actually hurting an armor 7 player like this is quite considerable when you're using a Mighty Blow player.
And of course, the Lizards are looking to do as much damage as possible to the Skaven on this drive, and in this game, in fact, because any injuries, any deaths to the players will carry on between Game 1 and Game 2. So even if you lose the game, but do a lot of damage, you might still be in a good position for the next game. Looks like there's still one block to throw on a lineman, and they still have the blitz. So they're looking to punch a hole here, but not that successfully. However, there's a lot of Skaven now tied up on Lizardmen. And of course, if they want to get away, they're going to have to roll some dodges.
They do still have their Storm Vermin left unmarked, so he's free to move around. And importantly, that is the guard Storm Vermin. So being able to reposition him might actually matter a lot here.
I like the play there, pushing the cKnoor so that his tail is covering both of the gutter runners. That effectively reduces their agility by 1 when they attempt to dodge. As stated before, the gutter runners and the skinks, the smaller of the Lizardmen, all start with the dodge skill, which not only prevents them getting knocked over on a defender stumbles result, it also means that when they attempt to dodge, if they fail it, they get to re-roll it for free rather than use a team re-roll. So that's very important for A, getting around the pitch and dodging through corners, and also from getting away from players that you don't want to fight. The Skaven will be without their Rat Ogre for this turn, so that's going to severely limit their options. I'm expecting them now to sort of take blocks where it suits them and just try and protect the ball until the Rat Ogre gets back on his feet, because they're certainly not making any progress this turn. Because of the strength difference of the line rats and the Saurus, they need 3 players for each block they want to throw.
I'm a little bit surprised that Guinness did not put at least one skink forward to threaten the ball, because things being as they are, the Skaven are in such an unfavorable position that they might actually choose to run the ball back, as we see right now, just to make sure that it's safe. And if the the Lizards had only one skink, maybe the block one, sent forward, then it would be a lot harder for him to protect the ball. He would need other players to cage it up rather than simply running back and trying to get a grip on the situation all the way in the front, which he now has 10 players for.
Especially with the wizard in hand, the threat of a skink in your half plus the wizard has got a weigh on his mind. Okay, he chooses to blitz the Saurus off with his storm vermin here. So I guess he's going to set up some sort of loose screen on the left-hand side to prevent anyone coming through. Now, for you guys at home, the wizard is an inducement, which if every team has a value, each player has a value, and their combined value plus a few other things makes up the total value of the team. If your team is worth less than the opposing team, you're given the difference in money to purchase inducements. The wizard inducement is considered one of the more powerful inducements in the game. It gives you the option once and once only throughout the game to call upon your wizard to cast a magic spell. You have 2 spells to choose from. You have the fireball, which will hit everything in a 9 square block, a 3x3 square. It will hit them on a 4+, and it's the equivalent of being hit in the face by a mighty blow player. Or they can cast a lightning bolt, which is a single target spell that works on a 2+ and is the equivalent of getting hit by a mighty blow player. So the power of this is you can use it at the start of your turn. So he can zap the ball carrier at the start of his turn, steal the ball, and score a quick touchdown. That's why we would have liked to have seen him run at least one of his skinks into the opposition half, so that he had the option to steal the ball if he chose to.
Importantly, the wizard is good for any team, but it gets even better for teams that are either very fast or very, very agile. Now, both of these teams are fast. The skinks are not as agile, but they can still capitalize on a loose ball pretty effectively.
Well, they're more agile in a lot of tackle zones because the stunty players, the smallest players, ignore tackle zones when it comes to dodging.
Yes, so that means they still have to roll a dodge for exiting a tackle zone, but it doesn't matter how many tackle zones they enter, whereas all other players need to roll an exceedingly more difficult dodge depending on the number of tackle zones they go into, which is how you can protect the ball and protect your formation.
So the gut runner on the right did dodge away, but you'll notice he failed his first dodge by rolling a 2 because of the prehensile tail. Luckily for him, as we said, he has the dodge skill and he was able to be successful on his reroll. But if he had failed the second roll, that would have been the end of the Skaven turn. I would say here the Skaven look very, very open on the path to the ball with only a single line rat covering that gap in the center.
Agreed. I would not be at all surprised to see that line rat getting blitzed out of the way here, and even on a push, he would be able to send players through.
Yeah, there's a Blocksaurus waiting in the wings, looking ready for action. Importantly as well, the Kroxigor is sat right on top of the Rat Ogre, so even if the Rat Ogre manages to stand up, his options are going to be quite limited for the next couple of turns, and that's another important thing. You know, the Rat Ogre is the opposite of the rest of his team. He's strong and he hits hard. Having him out of there severely limits the Skaven team's options here. Many Skaven coaches choose not to play with a Rat Ogre and simply rely on the agility and speed of their team. Mallak obviously chooses to have one in this tournament format and has done well with it in the last few games.
Yes, so the reason many people don't opt for the Rat Ogre on Skaven teams is because at some point the blitzers, the Storm Vermin would just be better for blitzing with, and if you don't choose to blitz with the Rat Ogre, then he spends half of his turn standing still. In a tournament format like this, though, you really want the Rat Ogre because he's an early Mighty Blow, he's some strength, and you really don't have a developed team yet. So I think in a lot of low team value tournaments, you do actually see a lot more Rat Ogres and a lot more big guys in general.
We saw in the semi-finals as well, the Rat Ogre was instrumental in taking apart the armoured thick skull of the dwarfs. He did a lot of damage and gave the rats a lot of options. So Guinness is just weighing up his options here. I would imagine he's going to start to put pressure on the ball before the Rat Ogre gets back on his feet and gets back in the game, because Mallak's next move will be trying to get the Rat Ogre back into play here. Interesting so far, though, that he hasn't chosen to blitz the available skinks. With only 4 skinks and no sub-bench, they are quite a tasty target. Remember, the skinks are the only ones on the Lizardman team that can reliably handle the ball. So if you can manage to take them out, you can prevent any sort of movement. So as we said, he is going to try and take out this line rat in the middle. It's only a push, but that's going to be sufficient for his guys to get through. He's actually going to mark him to the side, I imagine, to prevent dodges. If he marks him on the corner, it's slightly easier for him to dodge away. And we should see the skinks pouring through the gap that he's made here. He's likely to keep at least one back as a defender.
Generally, what you see when people try to target the lizards is that they try to hit the skinks, preferably with block, tackle, mighty blow, and that they target the saurus more with chain push or with surfing, that is pushing players into the crowd, or with fouling, which is just standing on their head repeatedly until they break, usually with the help of some friends. And the thing
very few teams can go toe-to-toe with the lizards. The ones mainly that can are teams with claw access, such as Chaos and Nurgle.
And those really don't do well in this tournament format at all. So there weren't any Chaos entering into the tournament, which was to be expected. Which is why armor teams do fairly well, because their natural predators just don't have the time to come to their full strength, basically.
Skaven, of course, can get claw themselves if they roll doubles on their Storm Vermin, or any of their players, in fact. Here we see an armor break, and we've got a KO. Knee cut. The lineman will be knocked out for the remainder of this drive at least. And now we see the lizards starting to gain a number advantage on the rats.
So the thing about Claw is that it lowers your armor value to 9, to 7, no matter how high it was before. That means it's actually not as good versus armor 8. It's useless versus armor 7, but it's pretty good versus armor 9. On a Storm Vermin who doesn't have Mighty Blow yet, it doesn't do all that much. On the Rat Ogre, though, it could really, really be devastating.
Look at the position of this Crocs again. This is how you use your Croxagore as a Lizardman team. You want to get him into as many people as possible and make sure they don't have an option to block him back.
Especially when playing against a low-strength team like this that cannot really bring to bear the required strength to get a reliable block against that big guy.
Not so sure about marking this gutter runner. There's only a 1 in 36 chance that he doesn't get away there. But these two skinks in the Skaven half are definitely going to ask some questions for Mallak on his next turn. He now does not have the luxury of sitting back with the ball. He has to do something now. With the wizard in hand, he loses the ball 5 times out of 6, should Guinness choose to use it. However, at the moment, the threat of the wizard is enough to force Mallak's hand.
He's in a very, very uncomfortable situation, because if he stays where he is, the wizard, or even without the wizard, the ball is not safe. He doesn't have enough players to really form up somewhere safely. And even if he does, then he's still got the risk of a potential fireball, for instance, if he cages. And so because all of his players that are not Agility 4 have a very, very serious risk of failing a dodge, which means getting his players regrouped in a safe formation around the ball is just basically impossible, or at least not reliable enough that you want to count on it.
Okay, seems like he's brought one of his gutter runners back to start with. He will obviously only be taking actions that are 1 in 36 failure chance initially. So that is gutter runner dodges or 2 dice blocks with the Storm Vermin. However, there's no 2 dice blocks available for his Storm Vermin. So he's going to reposition his gutter runners and form some sort of a loose screen here. Looks to me like he's going to maybe end up with the ball in the centre of his field. But he's still very vulnerable, in my opinion.
He has no option but to be vulnerable right now. Normally, Skaven really like to make a sideline cage, which is basically the ball carrier next to the side and having 2 players diagonally covering his position. However, against skinks, that is already very risky if you don't have sidestep. And against the wizard, it is also very, very risky. So that's one option that he could normally rely on and now cannot.
Okay, so the ball moves over to the right. We may even see these skinks try and dart through the line. However, I expect Guinness to be a little bit more reserved. I expect him to keep blocking and just keep squeezing the Skaven. He's not in a rush here. It's still 0-0 and he still has the wizard in hand.
I'm afraid we might see a Rat Ogre blitz to free up these 2 players.
I think he has to. I think he has to get players free. He can't even risk the 1 in 9 with his gutter runner, because if that fails and the rat ogre's on the floor, it's an absolute nightmare for him. At least if the rat ogre fails his blitz, he's still got the gutter runner on his feet. His block is successful.
Is good.
So will we see some damage on the Croxagore here? We will not. But the Croxagore hits the deck, which is definitely a positive. It gives him the option of a 1 dice block with his Storm Vermin. But the most important thing here is it frees up the gutter runner and the lineman to put some much needed assistance on the Skaven team.
Unfortunately for the Skaven, the Rat Ogre starts the game off with the Frenzy skill. That means that if a block result ends up in a push or knocking someone down, they have to follow this up. If it's a push, then they get to make a second block, which is a huge advantage. But having to follow up that block really is disadvantageous for him. Otherwise, he could have been able to reposition that Rat Ogre after this blitz. But now he's next to this Saurus, which means he cannot put him where he would like.
No, although he's not in the worst spot ever, because he's tying up one more of the Saurus, and he prevents the Croxagore from doing anything once he stands up.
But at the moment, he really wants everything he can to be protecting the ball rather than be that far forward, I think.
So for you guys in chat who are talking about whether it's an RNG heavy game or a skill heavy game, it's a mix of two, much like something like Hearthstone would be. You have to have a little bit of luck on your side at key moments to get anything done. You know, if you have terrible luck, sometimes you will just lose because of your bad dice. But consistently, the best players are at the top of the leagues and the ladders. So there's definitely a heavy skill factor to it.
It's a bit untransparent sometimes, so that's part of the problem with this game that people experience, is that when they get outplayed, it feels like they're being outlucked, and that's something you hear from a lot of new coaches who think that the dice are unbalanced. That's because the correct overview of just how risky your actions are and how other people's actions are forcing you to take risks which might not be favorable is very, very hard to get a good grip on until you've become a lot better at the game. So for a lot of new people, Blood Bowl can be very frustrating, but once you really get the hang of it, it becomes an amazingly rewarding game.
Definitely. I always say you don't have to make all of your dice rolls, just the important ones. And often a game will come down to those 1 or 2 rolls. And if you get crazy dice at the right time, crazy things can happen. So now the Lizards are making their decision. The lineman right next to the gutter runner is helpful because it prevents the leftmost skink getting an easy 2 dice block here. We expect to see Guinness just try and apply some pressure on the Skaven, keep them running around the backfield. However, Guinness does have to consider Widge, the rookie gutter runner, number 9 in his half. Because if they pass the ball to him, he can be gone. And in fact, he can score next turn, because as we touched on before the match, gutter runners are the fastest player in the game out of the box. As players play games, they acquire star player points and they can level up. And in some cases, they can get faster, stronger, tougher, or even more agile. But of all the pieces, when they're brand new, gutter runners are the fastest in the game with movement 9, which means they can move 9 squares every turn, plus 2 more if they try to go for it. However, Guinness feels the same as me, that Widge is a threat. So he's punched him in the face, he's knocked him down, but once again, the weak armor 7 manages to hold and no damage is inflicted.
Importantly, Sierra here, the skink who is marking the gutter runner we were just talking about, Widge, that Sierra has the skill called Diving Tackle, which can be a crucial skill in matchups like this. What it does is, if a player tries to dodge away from you and does not have a result that is 2 points better than the one normally needed, the player with Diving Tackle can choose to jump after him, dive at his legs, and drag him down with him, which means that the difficulty of the dodge retroactively becomes 2 points higher. And if the gutter runner is able to succeed after the reroll, then he's just gone and the skink is still on his feet. But that's the kind of skill that can cause really unfavorable turnovers just by trying to dodge away from him and having him drag you down with him.
I think we might see a gutter runner relay here. He's running out of options. He's running out of places to hide. So we could see him try and get the ball onto the blodge sidestep gutter runner. However, he'll probably have to dodge him first and go for the 2+ pass, 2+ catch rather than the 3+ catch.
That would mean moving 1 square less than his maximum range, or making a go for it with the Finnish, who will be making the pass there if he does as you suggest.
I think the 1 square won't make a difference when you're facing a team as fast as Lizardmen. He can't outrange them, so the 1 square makes not too much difference. It's always nice to go further, but even then, it's not a particularly strong play because it's going to leave the ball carrier exposed, and he's going to be relying on the blodge to keep him standing.
Which doesn't exactly help against a lightning bolt either.
No, but it depends how greedy Guinness is feeling. If he's feeling lucky and feeling greedy, he might not lightning bolt.
Just go for the 3 die and hope for a POW, and then save the wizard for even more punishment later.
So the two skinks, will he try and move them forward? He's going to dodge one. He failed his first dodge, but made the second. And he is going to put some pressure on the ball here. However, if the second skink moves, then there is suddenly enough rats available to create a cage in the middle of the field. We probably won't see many cages from the rat team.
At least until the wizard is gone.
He chooses to go backwards with his blodge skink. Again, sometimes I feel the threat of the wizard is often more powerful than the wizard itself, because it completely changes the way you have to play.
It's a good reason to hang on to the wizard for a little longer, just so that the opponent doesn't know what he's facing every turn.
Well, there's no immediate danger. Once again, the Skaven are the ones having to react. They've been on the back foot since turn 1 here, in my opinion. And the double skull rat ogre really hampered their plans. It's now over halfway through the half, and they have not only have they not got the ball into the opposition half, they haven't even got it near the opposition half yet.
Which is fine for Skaven, really. If you want to stall, then hanging back for a while is good, but they don't have the positional advantage that they would really want at this point.
Yeah, it's not a massive issue because they can cover the whole pitch in 1 turn. But currently, they're playing an evading game rather than a stalling game. And the worst thing he could possibly do is get to turn 7 and then lose the ball.
I think a lot of this is still recovering from that perfect defense. That really set them off on the wrong foot, and they've been struggling ever since.
It looks like we might see the rat ogre block. However, with the 2 Saurus behind the Croxigor, if he pushes him, he's going to get himself into trouble. Once again, you did touch on the frenzy skill. The frenzy skill is sometimes good because it lets you get a second block if your first one fails. However, it's sometimes bad because you have to follow up. You don't get a choice in the matter. So sometimes if you're less experienced, it can get you in a little bit of trouble. It won't actually be a 2 dice uphill because I just spotted the guard storm vermin is assisting. But it will be a 1 dice, which with a non-block guy has a 33% chance of failing.
And loner means that you can't reroll it if it does fail.
And in the situation of the 2 big guys, if they both go down, it always favours the Croxigor because he has more armour and he has thick skull. So the rat ogre is more likely to get damaged out of the 2. This isn't always the case though. We often see the weaker player come off unscathed and the stronger player end up dead. But that's Blood Bowl, and that's why we love it.
Yeah, those are the moments that you remember, of course.
Yeah. Everyone remembers the time a goblin killed their ogre and stuff like that. The unlikely things are the best. Still.
My favorite one is where a snotling does a 3 dice uphill surf. That's just lovely.
Sometimes when you're down on players and down on luck, though, you have to try the crazy stuff. So it would be interesting to see if we see this gutter runner try and dodge away from the diving tackle, or even if we see him stand up right now. I suspect we will see him stand up.
I don't think so. I think he'll save him for the end of his turn and then dodge away. So the dodge, because of diving tackle, becomes a 4+ roll, but with the dodge skill, that's still 75% to succeed. And if he fails the first on a 2 or a 3, but then succeeds on the second, then he's even managed to get the skink down on his face without having to do anything.
And of course, if he fails the first one because of dive and tackle, I believe the second roll doesn't take into account dive and tackle, so he still gets a 2+ to get away.
That's not how it works by the rules, and I'm pretty sure that's not how it works.
That's the current implementation, I believe.
Ooh.
If you use a team reroll, dive and tackle still takes effect. If you use the dodge skill, it doesn't seem to take effect on the second roll. It was quite confusing for me for quite a while because I couldn't work out how it was working. So he's gone for a skink hit now. This is what we wanted to see. We wanted to see the Rat Ogre trying to hit some skinks. Unfortunately, he's not able to bring him down. But that does mean his own prehensile tail is now onto one of the skinks. He's trying to trap these 2 skinks on the right so that they don't present a threat to the ball.
And
so
there goes the dodge guy.
So there you see, he failed the first. You see what I mean? He failed the first dodge on a 2, right? Because of dive and tackle. The second dodge, he rolled a 2, and he made it. Do you see what I mean?
I know that there is a visualization problem with the diving tackle skill, and I've read on the forums that this is only a visualization of the results and not actually a misimplementation of the rules. Now, I haven't actually been able to verify this quantitatively, but judging from how often it works, I would say that that is actually correct and that we only have a visualization issue here and not an skill.
To me on the dice log, it looks like both dodge rolls were a 2. The first one failed. The second one, for some reason, showed it as the diving tackle skill check as a 2. And it failed, but the guy got away and the skink was on the floor. So there's either a visualization error or there you go. That's unfortunate for the Lizardmen because the skink is now on the floor, not doing anything. And the gutter runner is on his feet. Lizardmen now have the opportunity to put a bit of pressure. They can't steal the ball. They'll be looking to use the wizard next turn, I think. That's roughly ideal. Usually you want to use the wizard at least halfway through your kicking drive, because that's when the opponent team has not enough time to recover from it, and it makes your stall rather easier. So I think it might be useful to explain stalling briefly. When a team scores, the ball gets handed over to the opposite team. And this means they have time to score back unless the half is almost over. So since possession changes are not that common, giving the ball to the opposition team is actually really, really bad for you. So what you usually want to do is score as late as possible in the drive, ideally on the last turn, which then does not allow the opposition team any time to score back unless they have the skills needed to make a touchdown in a single turn, which both of these teams actually do. Yeah, Skaven have one of the best one-turn touchdown out of the box as well. With movement 9, they only need to move 2 squares to be able to run it in. Be interesting to see if he chooses to get these skinks round the line rats and put some more pressure. I think he's just going to take as many blocks as he safely can here. I'm not sure I like this Crocs tying up the single gutter runner at the back because he still has a 1 in 9 chance of getting away there. And I think that might be the weak link in his defense right now. He's going for a 3 dice on the left-hand side, and he is going to knock over the gutter runner Lehigh? Will he do some damage to him, though? Again, the weak armor of the gutter runners holds. I don't know what these gutter runners are made of, but I want some. I want some for my players because they seem very tough so far.
Mallak the Immortal.
And he's still using his players to tie up a lot of the line rats, leveraging that strength advantage at every turn. I'm loving this play from Guinness so far. I think he could have been a bit more aggressive than he has been so far, but he's definitely using the strength advantage here very well.
Yes, he's been dominating the positioning game, which of course the perfect defense and then the Rat Ogre double skulls helped with, but he hasn't been bashing nearly as much as he would have liked. Normally, when you're playing this blocky against an Armor 7 team, you really expect to knock out some players after a while. Now, there's only one KO, and the Skaven still have a player in reserves, which means that they have 11 players and maybe even 12 for the second half so far. Although he did use the Apothecary on the Rat Ogre, which means that at any point, Armor 7 might start working and things might start breaking down.
I do agree with his choice to apoc his Rat Ogre, though. I think it's too important to risk a 4+ to get him back. I'm not sure if he induced any babes. With him having the Wizard, I imagine not. So, the Blocksaurus fails his role on the Rat Ogre and gets taken down. He did go for what we said earlier, a 2 dice uphill with block, and unfortunately, he got a skull. In the situation where you're less strong than your opponent, the opponent gets to choose which block dice, and of course the Skaven choose to give him the skull.
So as you said before, ending your turn with a 2 dice uphill, so 2 red dice block, where you have block and the opponent does not, is really not that bad. The chance of you rolling a skull is pretty limited. It's about 1 in 3, whereas the chance of you rolling something that at least gets rid of him is quite good, and the chance of knocking him down is 1 in 4 still.
And once the Rat Ogre's isolated, you're almost forced to blitz with him there, because if you blitz or block with the Rat Ogre, he has a 2+ chance of doing what you want. If you only want to move him, he has a 4+ chance of doing what you want. So he's quite unreliable when you just want to move him around. 50-50 chance that he does absolutely nothing. Whereas the Croxagore can do whatever he wants on a 2+. However, should he fail the 2+, it's a lot worse.
Unfortunately, without Juggernaut, he's also quite unreliable if you do want to use him for blocking or blitzing.
I think he's probably not so bad if you're blitzing skinks all the time. 1 in 27 chance of failure on a 3 dice. The guard storm vermin rather is also isolated. He's perfectly positioned, this Saurus, so that the guard storm vermin is only marking one guy. So his guard is not coming into play at all.
Exactly. As soon as guard is in the game, positioning becomes crucial. As you can see on these 2 storm vermin, if their positions have been reversed, then the guard one would be able to assist on a block. But because the guard one is on a corner and just marking a single player, his guard skill is useless. Whereas the other storm vermin, Snilla Trap, would have really liked to have guard right now.
I don't think the Skaven have any way to move the ball up here. And in fact, they could get a surf on a skink though. We might see a skink go into the crowd here. He chooses to blitz him with Weakit, the lineman. This skink is going to go into the crowd, and when you go into the crowd, it's an automatic injury roll. Not only that, but the skink has the stunty ability. He does not get it, so he re-rolls it after rolling a double both down, gets a push. So this skink is going into the crowd, and he's going to get his head stamped on, and the crowd have knocked him out.
Importantly, even if the injury roll doesn't have any effect, the skink is still off the pitch for the rest of the drive, which is a huge advantage. If you can crowd push enough players, you can wind up with a very, very strong on-pitch presence, even though you're not causing any long-term damage.
It's particularly effective against Saurus if you can get any crowd surfs on the Saurus, who are quite tough naturally. However, the crowd doesn't care what your armor is. The crowd will injure you all the same.
Yes, Armor 9 serfs are the best.
Right, so this has created a little bit of space for the lizards on the right-hand side. However, they're still deep in their own half, and they are going to have to dodge a gutter runner backwards to cover this other Saurus, which they do. I expect to see the ball handling gutter fall back to the right now, in between the other players, yeah. And I imagine he's going to start dodging away his players one at a time into safety. I agree. Obviously, we agree with that reroll on the surf because he had 3 rerolls on 3 turns remaining. So there was no downside to that reroll.
Now, the trick here is that he needs to score at least 2 turns from now, and he only has 1 gutter on the other side of the pitch, and he is squeezed between diving tackle on the one side and prehensile tail on the other. So he cannot simply dodge away from the Croxigore to the south. So he'll need to dodge into the Croxigore's tackle zone, which is a 4+ dodge, 1 for the tail and 1 for the tackle zone, and then dodge out on a 3+ afterwards because of the tail. So that gutter has quite some rolls ahead of him.
Yeah, I think as we have just seen, we're going to see the other gutter runner move up to create a second scoring threat. And he'll probably try last thing on his turn to move the Blodgestep gutter. However, his dodge is a 4+ in 1 tackle zone with prehensile tail. He made it. So now he has to make a 3+ dodge, which he does.
So
and
that's
he's
the
home
1 in
free
9 again? Yes.
Now I expect to see him outrange the Crocs here, which is nice. However, there's still the wizard in play. I mean, I wouldn't be entirely surprised to see the ball carrier get wizarded here. The Saurus come to potentially blitz off the sidestep skink's marker, and the sidestep skink go and gather the ball. Because the worry that Guinness has got now is if he doesn't wizard this turn and doesn't get the ball, then the Skaven just run it upfield and they're gone.
I think the wizard is looking pretty appealing to him right now. Although he doesn't have that much skink close to the ball, which is somewhat unfavorable. But he does really
also
want
going to need a
whiz.
GFI to use Dragon's Fire, the Saurus, to clear off Surg Cut. But if he chooses to wizard here, he has to roll a 2+ for it to be successful. If he rolls a 1, the wizard does nothing and all that money is down the drain.
In addition to the GFI, he'll also need to throw some blocks. Now, if War's Wages does good, then he can just go through. But if War's Wages only rolls a push, then he'll need another block with no block skill. So there are
if he only rolls
involved.
a push, he can actually go round the outside with an additional GFI. But that will make it more of an awkward angle to throw the block. So he's definitely... The reason he hasn't done anything before is because he's deciding whether to use the wizard. As soon as you stand up a player or you move a player, then you can't use your wizard. Using your wizard will then end your turn. You have to use the wizard at either the start of your turn, before anything, or at the end. So he does wizard,
there it is.
and he gets a knockout.
Breaks armor. Knocked out. That is huge.
So the wizard is successful.
Crucial.
All that's left of the... gutter runner is a little pile of ash now on the floor. So this is Guinness committed.
The bounce is very favorable for the rats because it's next to the rat ogre, which means not only a +1 to pick it up because of the tackle zone, but also a +1 to dodge out with it because of prehensile tail. So the lizards will not be happy with that bounce.
I think he can work a way to clear this rat ogre here.
Sure, he's got enough strength sitting up there, definitely. But it would be better for him if he didn't have to do that.
No. But remember, the pressure's on the Skaven now because it's their drive. They've lost the ball. And his gutter runners are massively out of position. They're at the wrong end of the pitch. We're going to see another armor 7 hit the deck here. This time we do see an armor break. It is only a stun though, which means he will take 1 turn to recover and then get back on his feet. Anytime you see the slow motion animation, that means armor has been broken.
I imagine he'll try and put his diving tackler next to the ball before he tries anything like a pickup though.
Yeah, I imagine he's going to try the pickup, but like you said, he's going to cover the ball a bit first.
would have imagined, like you said, that he would choose to blitz away the rat ogre from the ball.
Yeah, I
rather
would
than
have. I
blitz
would
that
have gone
skink.
for that because even if you do make the pickup, you've then still got a 25% chance that the tail will trip you up. So the storm vermin will be hitting the deck here. He's just deciding whether to follow up. No damage, but that does enable a follow-up block onto the other storm vermin.
I'm really surprised that the diving tackle skink has not made its way to the ball before we see all of these blocks, though. Because if one of those blocks goes bad, then the ball
I
is
think
still
he's
free.
thinking he's prepared to re-roll these blocks if he needs to. So there's only actually a 1 in 81 chance of it going south.
So,
we might not even see him pick it up here.
Even so, if the blocks do not affect where you want that skink, and the skink just has to make a move action, then you want that move action first because it is crucial, whereas the blocks aren't really.
I kind of feel that Guinness is reluctant to commit that skink as well. He does now, but I think he was mulling it over simply because it was the only guy in his side.
Wow.
So
he picks
made
it up
the
with
dodge,
the
but
diving
failed
tackler.
the GFI. Oh god, what happened there? So he failed the GFI, re-rolled it, and was successful, but the prehensile tail tripped him up. So now he's got a problem because if the gutter runners manage to do some craziness here and get rid of the ball, then he's got no one in his half to catch it, and his wizard is gone. If he uses his wizard and the Skaven score, it's a disaster.
I would have really expected him to put the diving tackler on the ball and then attempt to pick up with the other sidestep skink, because that way, at least if the pickup fails or the dodge fails, you still got diving tackle protecting you from any player trying to snatch up the ball afterwards.
Yeah, you definitely have to cover for failure there because it's, you have a 25% chance to fail the pickup, you have a 25% chance to fail the dodge, and obviously you have the GFI coupled in as well, which is like a 16% failure chance. There's too much risk there not to cover yourself. I guess he feels kind of comfortable because two of the gutter runners are at the wrong end of the pitch, and he has the prehensile tail on the ball. But I think, like you said, his diving tackle and sidestep could have been put to much better use there, tying up either the ball, or I wouldn't have minded seeing him tie up the other gutter runner, because prehensile tail plus diving tackle means that gutter runner's not going anywhere.
Yeah, that would have been alright as well, because then he would have to rely on agility 3 for picking up and getting rid of the ball, which might also be as unfavorable as having the diving tackler near the ball.
Mallak still has to worry about the ball here. I wouldn't be surprised to see him blitz off the blodge skink, make the 1 in 9 dodge, and just try a pass play here, because I don't think he can hold the ball with all these lizards around. Guinness now down to 1 reroll. Mallak still has 2 in hand, so he can reroll something this turn and on his last turn. However, the rerolls become a lot more important in the second half, because any rerolls that remain at the end of the second half will be carried over to overtime if there is some. So as I said, he's going to try and move this skink out the way, which is going to enable a path for his gutter runner to come and collect the ball. He then has to decide whether he's willing to take the pass play, which I think he might, because if he makes this pass play, there's no one on the lizard team that can catch him now. He's home free. And that is the ideal result for the rats. If you spoke to the rat coach at the start of the half and said, what would you love to end this half? It would be 1-0 with the wizard used.
And my entire team intact.
And my entire team alive. That's exactly what he could get right now. Unlike his opponent, though, he's chosen to cover the ball in case of failure. So the rat dodges, the rat picks up. We expect him to take the diagonal.
4+3+ then.
Yeah.
4+3+ pass? Maybe a 3+ if he dodges past the skink.
Or do you even hoon it right up to the other one? Because even an inaccurate pass could be quite useful on the other guy, because look at the skinks, there's none.
True. As long as you don't fumble it, you've got a good position.
Pass will be good enough here. He chooses to make the dodge. Now, will he pass short? or will he pass long? There is always the 1 in 6
Will
chance
there
that
be
this Saurus
the
will
Saurus
catch it.
intercept? Yeah. Somehow it seems like Saurus intercepts so much more. Anyone with agility 3 or below needs a 6 to intercept, but somehow it's all the more striking when an agility 1 just jumps up and snatches that ball.
So currently it's a 5+ pass to the further gutter runner, or a 4+ to the near gutter runner. So I actually think the near gutter runner is probably the better option. He'll have, if he uses a reroll, he'll have a 52% chance of it reaching the far gutter runner. So it's a 50-50. However, if it's inaccurate,
It's
he makes the
far
pass.
one.
It's an interception.
It's the Saurus
It's the Saurus
intercept!
interception!
Yes!
He rolled a
Wow!
6. The Saurus leaps in the air, plucks the ball,
Ouch!
and now
Ouch.
the rats are in trouble. The rats are in so much trouble.
Always the Saurus intercept. Will we see a Saurus touchdown? That is the ideal for lizards. Saurus touchdowns are the best.
Absolute madman. Wars wages with the interception. Not only does he net himself the ball, he nets himself 2-star player points for his heroics and the opportunity to rack up 3 more if he gets a touchdown. And 5-star player points on a Saurus is huge in any game.
It would put him 1 casualty away from skilling up, which would also be pretty huge, considering that any additional skill this match will really, really help him out. I guess it would be Guard or Mighty Blow.
I mean, if he just heads diagonally to the left, there's not much the Skaven can do about it, really.
Well, they only need to get 2 tackle zones on him, which are connected to each other and not easily chain pushed, and then it's very hard for the Saurus to get rid of them both.
But even then, the Skaven don't score, which is a disaster.
Yeah, that's definitely not happening here. So the trouble is, if you mark him with 2 players together, then there's probably a good chance to chain push him off. If you mark him with 2 players apart, he can just blitz one of them, and if that guy goes down, then he's free to move after the blitz. I'm getting a shout from chat that tackle might also be a good option for this match.
Oh, definitely. Having 0 tackle against 4 dodgers is quite an annoyance, especially the one that has blodge and the one that has wrestle and dodge. So I think he's going to try and protect his ball a little bit here. The Rat Ogre will probably stay where he is because he'll be marked by the other Saurus. I expect him to try and blitz the dive-in tackle free and put the dive-in tackle onto the gutter runner.
That makes a lot of sense, yes.
That would be my play. Doesn't look like he's going to use the Saurus I thought he would. He's going to free the Croxagore up. Is he going to blitz with the Croxagore? Not sure I like that. You know, I like the accessibility of having the reroll if I need it. Okay, so he's just going to move.
He's going to blitz with Sweet Sweet Vengeance to free him up and assist down there as well, I think.
Okay. And if he knocks him over, then yeah, that's a good call. Unfortunately, he doesn't knock him over, so the Storm Vermin may still have something to do yet in this drive.
But a push is enough to get past and to get in the way of that gutter runner down to the south.
Well, I think he needs to cover the left-hand side with this guy. The gutter runner, I would say, is less of a threat now than that Storm Vermin coming from the side. Because if he blitzes the blodge skink, he can get a couple of tackle zones on the ball.
Sure, I meant getting in the way of the gutter and the Storm Vermin on the left-hand side.
Okay, yeah, closing it down. So I'd like to see him 2 squares or 3 squares to the left of the sidestep skink. Just cutting out that channel completely. See what he opts to do with it. I think he's just counting the squares now of what the Storm Vermin can do. If he'd have knocked the Storm Vermin over, it would pretty much be his drive now to score turn 8. Okay, so he chooses to mark the gutter runner. I'm not sure how much I like that because that still leaves this Storm Vermin in play.
The Storm Vermin cannot reach the ball carrier except through that skink, though, and the skink has blodge, so it's not that terrible.
No. But if he does get lucky and power that skink, he can get 2 tackle zones on the ball.
Yeah, so normally one thing to do in the situation that Guinness is in right now is make sure that if the Saurus is too marked up, that you always have a skink to hand off to, because obviously you can't dodge away and you don't want to pass. So having a skink in your tackle zone that you can hand off to if the play doesn't work is probably a good backup. And in this case, the one skink that he can hand off to is also the skink that's likely to get blitzed.
What would have been interesting when he made that pass play was if his first dice roll was inaccurate pass, would he have risked a reroll and risked a fumble, or would he have just let the ball fly? Because obviously the mechanics of passing in Blood Bowl 2 work slightly differently to Cyanide's Blood Bowl 1 implementation and fumble, where obviously you might not want to reroll an inaccurate pass.
That applies to everywhere, I think.
Luckily, he didn't have the pass skill, so he wouldn't have been forced to re-roll it. Right. So now the Skaven, they've got to make a last-ditch play here. They've got to do something. Because otherwise they're going to go 1-0 down on their own drive, heading into the Lizards' drive. Which is, while we were talking about what would be the best-case scenario for Mallak, we're now looking at almost the worst-case scenario. The only plus is none of his players are dead.
Well, and the wizard has been used. He could be facing this and still the wizard, which would have made it even more dreadful.
That's true, but trading a wizard for a touchdown is what you're looking for, really.
Yeah, that's what it's for. So some people think that the wizard is an attrition measure, and it can be, but the main goal of the wizard for just about any team is to make sure that you get the ball from the opponent's hands into your hands while the opponent was expecting to score on his drive, meaning that rather than going 1-0 down, you're going 1-0 up. And in the other half, you'll be receiving the ball, which means you're potentially looking at a 2-0 win rather than a 1-1 tie.
Okay, so it's all going to come down to this Storm Vermin. Sniller Trap, number 3. He was lucky enough not to get knocked over, because that would have sealed the half. He needs to go big here. He needs to knock down this skink, in my opinion.
It's a trap.
He isn't going to knock him down. He doesn't choose to re-roll that. That's interesting to me, because he's got 2 re-rolls and 1 turn. I think I would have re-rolled that.
Yeah, same here. Not in the second half, maybe, if you're looking for overtime, but for this half, definitely.
And he's double wonned his dodge, 1 in 36 chance. So the Lizardmen simply need to push the Storm Vermin out the way, and they score. Wow, what's he doing here? Is he going to take some vanity blocks? Oh my word! If he takes some vanity blocks here, I don't know. 1 in 81. I don't think I could risk it in a match worth this amount of money.
I think he's just doing safe things on autopilot, not yet realizing that the Skaven have already had their turn 8.
Yeah, there is no more turns for the Skaven. It doesn't matter.
I've done this plenty of times where I go, before I do anything risky, I want to make sure that I've got all the situations covered in case I fail, and not realizing that.
He took the block with the skink. That's nice. That's nicely done, actually.
Yeah, that is good, because in that case, both down means he's still got the blitz action to do this with.
Now, do you take the block on the guard Storm Vermin? He chooses not to.
He runs it in.
He runs it in.
He does a little victory dance. Wow.
He does a jig. So, Mallak Skaven are going to go 1-0 behind on their own offensive drive. Guinness takes the upper hand in this first half. He's used his wizard to great effect. Nobody has died yet on either team, which all of you Blood fans out there for the Blood in Blood Bowl will be sorely disappointed. Hopefully the second half can provide more violence and more touchdowns for you. Crendor and cKnoor will be bringing you all of the second half action. So from myself and Sage, we shall see you after the match, and we will hand over to Crendor and cKnoor.
Thanks, Lewpac, and have fun, Crendor and cKnoor.
Crendor, I think we can all agree.
Yeah.
Lizards suck, right?
Yeah. Lizards.
Horrible.
Amazing.
They're the worst.
They're the best.
Hashtag the worst.
really, it's just people doubt the lizards and the lizard power, and the lizards are, they have Nuffle's praise. They are like the children of Nuffle.
I mean, this is when you go up against a wizard, this is kind of what you fear. I mean, worst case scenario for Mallak, of course, best case scenario for Guinness with the use of the wizard. At least this half, Mallak doesn't have to fear the wizard anymore. It's going to be interesting to see how he decides to go about this defense. Of course, here he kind of he has to steal the ball and score to get this into a third half. So I'm assuming we'll see a slightly more aggressive Mallak coming up, which, to be fair, isn't that hard since Mallak doesn't have to care about having someone holding onto the ball. We might even see a foul or two.
That is quite true, and I hope so, because there's not been much damage done to players even with their low armor value.
No, it's one of those cases where it's armor value, of course, the lower armor value you have, the easier it is to get injured. For those of you that haven't played too much Blood Bowl, the way it works is that if you're knocked down, you roll 2 dice. If the result of those 2 dice are more than the player's that's been knocked down, that player's armor value, you get to roll 2 dice again, which is the injury roll. And if that injury roll is high enough, you get knocked out, or even better / worse, you might get injured and a player might be out for the whole game, for the next game, or they might actually be, they might die.
Pretty much it's all coming down to dice rolling, and you gotta hope you get some good dice rolls.
It's one of those cases where I keep saying that Blood Bowl is a case of kind of managing what do I say?
What do you say, cKnoor?
Managing luck. It's a case of you want to make sure that when you're unlucky and roll badly, that things are not going to go horribly, horribly wrong. And we could kind of see that in the first half with Guinness getting an intercept on the Saurus. Of course, that's not something you're expecting because Guinness had to roll a 6 to actually get that intercept.
I don't know. I've seen quite a few Saurus interceptions in my day.
I'm just saying that the reason there even was a Saurus interception was because, of course, Guinness had positioned someone in that place to make sure that if there was a pass play, at least you get a 1 in 6 chance to steal it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how you have to look at Blood Bowl, I think. Find out where what you can do to minimize your bad luck and try and maximize your opponent's bad luck. If you can make them roll more dice, sooner or later they're going to roll a 1, because a 1 is always bad. And if you roll 2 1s, if you roll a 1, then re-roll into a 1, then your turn is over.
Now, is it possible to get an interception with lower than a 6?
It depends on how high your agility value is. For the new viewers out there, because we're still in setup here, we can go through every player in Blood Bowl has what we call a stat line, which is movement, strength, agility, and armor value. We talked about armor value, and Sage covered strength when it comes to blocking. Agility basically means if you're trying to do something that requires agility, like handling the ball or dodging away from someone else, or passing or intercepting, the higher agility you have, the easier it is to do that. There's some very simple math involved, which we don't really need to get into. But for most of these players, an intercept is always going to be on a 6. I think the Gutter Runners, because they have agility 4, which is higher than normal. A normal human has agility 3. The Saurus here, the big Lizardmen, they have agility 1, so they basically can't handle the ball. And the Skinks, of course, agility 3. And I think, let me just... Yeah. I think it's also important to mention that there are some skills that a player can pick up once they've gained enough experience. One of those is catch, which lets you re-roll a catch attempt or an intercept. Otherwise, you can't re-roll those if you fail.
Alright, so I know he said that, which skink? Sierra. Sierra was his favorite skink.
Yeah.
But I don't think they've done too much
No,
so far.
Sierra is the diving tackle skink. It's the skink that picked up the ball in a tackle zone and then failed on the GFI and failed to dodge out. So they dropped the ball after the wizard.
Yeah, well, they at least picked it up, so they don't have.
They did, yeah.
Terrible luck.
And we'll see. Putting all of the big Saurus players here up on the line of scrimmage, you have to always place at least 3 players on the line of scrimmage on the setup. Normally, you don't put more or less. You're the player receiving the ball. It does mean, however, that one of these gutter runners here in the back, these are the rats with the big capes. They have movement 9, which is a lot.
I think it's the fastest in the game.
It is. Going from the middle of the pitch, the line of scrimmage here, to the end zone is 13 squares. The Saurus, the big guys, they have movement 6, and the Skinks, the small lizard dudes, they have movement 8. So these are 2 very fast teams in Blood Bowl. So, for example, the Dwarves, everyone hates Dwarves. That's why we call them Dwarves and not Dwarves. They, for the most part, have like movement 4 or 5. They're really slow.
Mm-hmm. And the Saurus are actually pretty quick for big units as well. They have 6 movement.
They have. And the one problem with the Saurus is, of course, that because they have such low agility, if someone goes to stand next to them and they want to move, they would have to dodge away. And dodging is an agility roll. So basically, they can't dodge. Mm-hmm. They dodge away on a 5+. Not good.
Not good at all. Wannabe hero's moving. He wants to be a hero. I feel like he should be a hero. I'm really hoping he does something heroic so he can fulfill his destiny.
You know what the most heroic thing he could do?
What's that?
Just die. Very heroic to die on the pitch.
Well, he has to do something big and then die.
Dodge out, fall down on the grass and die, break his neck.
Yeah, like he has to, like if the gutter runner picks up the ball, he has to blitz, knock out that gutter runner, and then trip and die.
Oh, here we go. Oh, nope. Broke armor. That's when you see the fancy punch animation, but the injury was just a 3, and that's a stun, which means you get stars above your head, and that line rat will be out for the next turn, and then he'll be back.
And for people that do not know, if you look at the bottom of the screen, you can actually see the dice log, so you could see how he needs a 3+, and he rolled a 2.
Yeah, and now Guinness is deciding, do I want to reroll this? I only have 2 rerolls. Decided to not reroll it. Looking at the gutter runners, I think you could tell that I don't think... they can actually... They have enough movement to get over there and be a nuisance. But because there are so many Sauruses here in the way, they're probably not going to be able to make it all the way over there. But trying to put some... Being aggressive towards the ball is probably what the rats want to do here. We'll see how many players they do commit to try and push forward towards the ball. Of course, the fact that if you do try and push forward for the rats towards the ball in the back, if the skink then picks it up the next turn, they, in theory, because they're also quite fast, could just move really far down the Mallak side of the pitch. And of course, if if Guinness manages to score again, it's going to be very, very, very hard for Mallak to score twice in the amount of turns that are actually left. I mean, it's doable, but it's hard.
I'm taking a look at all the other names here. We have Darkness Shadows. I like him. Solid name. It sounds like a racehorse name. That and Sweet Sweet Vengeance, both racehorse names. I like that.
I would, however, I don't really understand the name though, if I'm honest.
Exactly, it's a racehorse name. You don't have to understand the name, it's about just sounding cool. However, Gonad the Barbarian. Oh!
No! So wild animal on the rat ogre here. The rat ogre is a big guy, has some special rules. In this case, a trait called wild animal, which means that if the rat ogre wants to move, just move around, Mallak needs to roll a die, and on a four or more on a 6-sided die, the rat ogre gets to move. Otherwise, the rat ogre is just like, I'm angry.
He rages out.
Mm-hmm. The way around that, of course, is that if the rat ogre instead blocks, punches, or blitzes, which is moving and then punching, you only have to roll a 2+, which is a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
So the 2 gutter runners left here. It'll be interesting to see if we get to see some sick dodging here, because Skal PHJ, I'm sure that's how that's pronounced, Scalp could, in theory, reach, but have to dodge.
Oh.
Dodging works. A 1 and 6 and a 6. Things
You
are
have
happening.
to reroll it with the dodge, though, so he can't do any more
Oh.
dodges.
Oh,
What? Down he goes.
doesn't need to do any dodges. And the reroll comes out. Of course, these GFIs are too. No. Oh, that's
What?
no, no,
Double ones.
no. But on the ball.
Oh yeah. Well,
So what actually happened there is that we talked about movement. So they have movement 9. At the after moving your allotted movement, you can do what's called going for it. So you can do 2 on each player each turn. To do 1, to move 1 extra square, you have to roll a die. On a 2+, you move. If you roll a 1, you fall down. That's what happened here. Mallak's gutter runner, however, fell right onto the ball because the gutter runner tried to pick the ball up, and the ball then scattered. But at least the gutter runner isn't hurt, still around.
that is true. Because you can get injured doing that.
Yeah. And more importantly, if we look at the Soras here, all of them are based.
No,
Oh
he
shit.
can't pick up the
Another
ball.
one. And a 6. Okay. So the ball has been recovered, and the skink has run and is now hanging out next to his racehorse friends. Most, if not all, of the Soros here in the back have been based, which means they can't really move, but they are free to block all of these rats. Fighting times.
Indeed. And the skink carrying the ball is named Spielberg, I imagine after the director. So
Sure.
I'm going to look at him as a filmmaking skink.
Well, yeah.
He's all about
now,
making those big moments.
I want to do 2 things now. I want to be a lot more interested in theater, so I can be like, so I can make a theater director's team, or just a script writer, so I can go, oh no, this is this guy. He makes the plays, and be like, hey, theater related puns.
And then you can be like, wow, why'd I make a team based around this, and then delete it.
I'm gonna keep working on the puns and then just go break a leg, and then everyone's gonna get movement busted. I'll be really sad.
You can make a guy named Break a Leg, and he'll be the only one that doesn't get injured.
Yep.
Looks like some pushing going on in the middle of the field.
Yeah, I mean, Mallak committed quite hard here to go for the ball, which, because he's down a touchdown, is probably the right move. But it does mean that there are not that many rats around here, and Guinness is making the most by pushing everyone around. Quite a lot, actually.
That he is. And he's also formed the cage. Have we talked about cages?
I don't think we have talked about them too much. Do you want to explain them?
I will explain them after this rat falls down.
Oh!
And he's
Stunned.
stunned. A lot of stuns.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, you want to make a cage so that it's hard for any of the players to actually get to the ball carrier. And it's the most efficient way of protecting the ball carrier.
Now, normal... Well, actually, hang on. Oh,
There's an injury.
Injury. What's happening? Oh, badly hurt. Now, Mallak used his apothecary in the first half, so he didn't have an option to try to get that player back. So that's really unfortunate for Mallak, because I'm pretty sure that's one of his storm vermin. Yeah, that's the guard storm vermin. That's someone he wants to have.
Wannabe hero knocked him out. He is becoming a hero.
He's gonna die soon. Just saying.
I don't know. I mean, he's still. I think he's on the rise. He just needs a few more big plays, and then he can die.
There is a slightly interesting play that could. Oh, we're seeing a blitz over here. Oh, well,
more stuns. Stunfest 2016.
That's misclick. Is that a misclick?
And he's injured.
Oh, that's possibly an Apo. No,
I don't think so.
Okay. So the reason, what actually happened here is that I'm pretty sure Guinness misclicked here, and by misclicking I mean he clicked a square he didn't want to click, but it went through, and going diagonally down from this line rat here is a dodge, and we talked about how horrible Soras are at dodging.
Mm-hmm.
And if you fail to dodge, you might get injured, and that's what happened. And not only that, the turn actually ended. Now, Guinness had done almost everything he wanted to do in that turn, but still, I mean, that's not.
The injury was the big part there.
Yeah. I'm actually kind of surprised here. Well, not super surprised. Actually, never mind. You can do it the other way. So the Rat Ogre here can, because the Rat Ogre has Frenzy, so the Rat Ogre gets to block twice, pushing people around. So the Rat Ogre can actually, if the Rat Ogre blitzes, can blitz Quester of Glory, the rat... Nope, not anymore. And could push the Rat Ogre to stand next to the Skink that's holding the ball carrier. But because of the Gut Runner's movement, I don't think that's possible anymore. Because you need to push people around. And there is a square for the Rat... Okay, yeah, so moving the Gut Runner down a bit. So maybe we will see a blitz here from the Rat Ogre. Guess we'll find out.
Saying that the Saurus was trying to avoid getting surfed.
Yeah, but he wouldn't... I don't... Then...
I don't know if he'd risk he'd have to roll a 6+. Maybe, I mean, he might have just thought he wasn't going to get injured.
Possibly. It's possible that that's what happened. I'm still, it smells misclick to me. I probably would have, if that was the case, I would have dodged backwards and then done the GFIs, because it's a lot easier than rolling a 6+. So, Rat Ogre did the blitz, pushed people around. And now there's a Rat Ogre next to the ball carrier.
It's always fun.
Yeah, the Soras standing next to the Rat Ogre here, Quester of Glory, has a 1 die at the moment, so giving another assist and the Rat Ogre is probably done for, but that's still at least putting some pressure on.
Not good to dodge away from the Rat Ogre either, because it takes away a dodge point from his big ass tail.
Yeah. Let's have a... Because we were like, oh no, the rats are injured. But currently, there are actually two... the Lizardmen are down to 9 players on the pitch. Whereas I think the rats might be down to the same.
Yeah, they're the same. But actually, I think he may have had a substitute.
Yeah, they had two extra players.
Yeah.
But, no.
They are only line rats, but in this situation, you gotta take whatever you want.
Oh! And Bromor gets KO'd again. We saw this in the first half. And Mallak, at that point, was like, nope, the Rat Ogre's staying in. Use the Apothecary on the KO, and that means the, whoops.
Down.
The KO turns into a stun. Not possible anymore. no Apo left. Whew. So
Not looking too good for the rats.
no, the main pieces that can actually hit things are for the most part out.
Mm-hmm.
There is somewhere in this mess, yeah, lying down here next to our kick line rat is the only rat that still has block on the pitch.
Yep.
Which
Nope,
is
the Skelf, the gutter runner, has blocked. But he
Oh,
only
yeah,
has 2
right.
strength.
Yeah, that's true.
So against the source of 4 strength, he's going to need quite a bit of help to even get a 2-die block. The blitz, oh, a 3-die.
But not having dodge means that, or having dodge, not having tackle, I mean, means that the good gut runner stays put. And because the gut runner has a skill called sidestep, Mallak gets to decide where the player is pushed if the result is a push. Normally, you get pushed into the 3 squares behind the player that's blocked, and the player who's actually blocking is the one who decides who gets pushed where.
I think he actually has a chance to really break it open here too, with like beating up the rats now that their front is down.
Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, because Guinness doesn't actually have to score this half. All Guinness has to do is make sure that the rats don't score, and then Guinness is fine. It might turn into a in a few turns. We'll see. It might just be Mallak trying to go for the skinks, because if Mallak can get rid of more skinks, that means he'll be in a better position in the second game. This is of course a best of 3, so even after this game, it's not going to be over. And rolling a dub skull or a both down there, Guinness not wanting to use his final reroll, Guinness only having 2, of course, decides that, you know what, everyone gets to get knocked down. It's probably not what he wanted, because
You're never gonna keep me down.
this does free up the one final storm vermin that Mallak has. So we'll see what happens.
It does, but I feel like he could do damage to himself trying to take out the skinks on top of it, just like how he just both downed and almost could have got injured there.
Of course. It's a case of like, do you just try and be like, you know what, I'm gonna try and minimize my losses already. I think it's too early for that. Or do I just like still try and go for it? Because as we saw in the first half, it's looking kind of dire for Mallak at the moment, but it's by no means done. There are definitely still things that can happen where Guinness loses the ball, and because Mallak is so fast, he can recover it.
That is true indeed. Down goes the source, but he rolled double 1s on the armor roll.
Yeah, and I think I guess it's also kind of important at this point to talk about how Guinness is using a cage at the moment, and that takes up 5 of his players. That means there aren't that many other players around that he can block. So if Mallak kind of ignores standing next to the cage, he can probably punch these few players that are, you know, being
oh my god.
Oh, like I said.
What
Okay, and
knocked him out.
Spielberg.
Tell you what, kKnoor, these are big-time plays we're seeing out there right now. I haven't seen a play like that ever in the history of Blood Bowl. It is phenomenal.
Holy crap! I mean, I feel. Oh, and He picked it up. He needed a 4. He got a 4.
He's gone.
And he made it away from the diving tackle piece as well. Okay.
What a change of events. This is truly insane.
So, 2 GFIs made the first one. He does still have a reroll.
He got it.
And he stole it. It's 1-1. Game's back on. I'm glad I said that whole thing about not being over, because this game is not over.
Well, that was something.
Holy crap.
Wow.
That was. And now knocked out players are gonna get to come back. The Rat Ogre's back in.
Rats!
And another skink is coming back in.
So good.
Shit, dude.
So just for those let's see if I can do some quick math in my head here. So the dodge into the tackle zone with that gut runner succeeded on a Mallak had to roll a 5+, and my co-commentators will have to correct me if I'm wrong here. A 5+ to get into that cage, I think, because it's in 3 tackle zones. And then, of course, he would have knocked down the skink on a both down or a POW. Got the POW. So 5+, 5+. Then the pickup was a 4+. The dodge out was also a 4+ because the skink had diving tackle. And then 2+, 2+. So it was 5+, 5+, 4+, 4+, 2+, 2+.
And he still has 2 rerolls. Because I don't even think he used a reroll. He used dodge, right? He didn't even use dodge.
Yeah. He still has 2 rerolls left.
Yeah. On the bright side, for the Lizardmen, though, they still get the ball.
They still get the ball.
And they still have a decent amount of turns to score.
Yeah, that's
the Rats
true.
do get another reroll, though.
So, Stream Chat points out that for that to actually work, the scatter, the die roll to determine where the ball end up, also had to be favorably. Ooh! It could have been even more favorably than it was. It could also have been worse. So, rats. One rat comes back, another one is immediately sent off to the KO bench. Now, these, of course, are the line rats on the LOS, which are the rats that Mallak cares the least about. And another point to make at the moment. The Sage tells us that without the scatter, it had the success rate was about 12%. 4.4 without rerolls. So, kind of unlikely. But not that
Pretty
unlikely. 12 times out of 100, it works.
But I mean, that's the best reasons to play Blood Bowl, is you have stuff like that happen.
Yeah. Whew. And if this half ends up tied, we'll go into third half. And in that third half, you do not get your rerolls back, which is probably going to be problematic for Guinness, because Guinness only has 1 left. And we just
another
saw
rat down.
We just saw Mallak get another one on the kickoff result. But the rats are getting KO'd. All of these shitty line rats are like, no, I don't want to get punched by Saurus anymore.
And another one. Darkness Shadows.
Well,
but he'll actually not get hurt, so that's good for him.
Good enough.
I think the hardest part is going to just be picking up the ball.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of scary for Guinness in the sense that the gut runners are so fast and they're better at picking the ball up. Now, in the next turn, I don't think the gut runners can't actually reach the ball where it is now.
Mm-hmm.
But they can definitely run around and threaten the ball carrier, just like they did earlier in this half.
That is true, but he doesn't want to leave them too open, otherwise they'll get beat up.
Mm-hmm. Whew. Still.
Still flustered.
Yeah.
Check
I'm
you
like,
up.
I was expecting a slow cage, just punching more rats. I didn't sign up for this. However, the block and dodge skink Spielberg manages to recover the ball, so everything is not lost for the skinks. They still have 5 turns to score, which is definitely doable.
Mm-hmm. He has 1 reroll.
He does. I mean, as long as he doesn't roll any dice and just roll 6s, he's fine.
Yeah. Easy enough.
We'll see what Mallak elects to do here.
Lineman rats moving down the field. Yuck.
Yeah, once again,
Yuck.
tying up the back Sorai here, just to, to make sure that they're not going anywhere.
Actually, would it be Saurus or Sorai?
This is this debate has raged since Lizardmen was added to Blood Bowl as a team. I think the official wording is that both are okay. I tend to mix them and say Sorai half of the time, and sometimes I just go Saurus's. Oh! And that's a double 1, and the Gut Runners are down.
There he is.
In other news, which is totally unrelated to the die roll, don't forget to look at the rat holding the flag on top of the rat ogre. My favorite part of the rat ogre.
Oh yeah, you're right. He's holding cheese as well.
Yeah. Which it's a very brave rat.
Very brave. I don't even know how he keeps his balance up there.
Guessing he's stapled to the rat ogre or something.
Yeah, that's true. Have they even invented staples in this universe? Maybe they just glued them on. Or maybe he's just attached to the armor, like he is one with the armor. So many choices. So many ways you can go with how he's attached.
Yeah. Once again, the so the skink has moved up. We've seen Mallak do this play once. He might be less inclined now that it's a tie. But I'm going to assume that it's going to happen again at some point. It should also point out that Mallak has a gutter runner that has been move busted. He's lost 1 movement, so he's got movement 8. But that gutter runner has dodge and wrestle. Wrestle is a skill like block that affects the both down block die. But rather than not being affected by the both down, if the player that's being affected by by the block elects to use wrestle, then both pieces are put down on the pitch as if they'd been knocked over, but no armor roll is used, which is really good if you want to knock the ball loose. If, for example, a skink has block, because normally if you get a both down, both players are just going to stand still if they have block. But if one of them has wrestle, and that player's like, you know what, let's wrestle. You can't hold the ball if you're on the floor. So
I like imagining that's what they do. Like, you know what? Why don't we just wrestle?
yeah,
It'll be more fun.
let's not punch each other in the face. Let's just have a nice relaxing bit of wrestle.
Maybe the wrestling guy's just very good at communicating what he wants, and it's just very convincing.
Like, hey, you want to do a bit of wrestling? Is that what's happening here? Okay. Yeah.
Normally no, but you're very convincing. I guess
Yeah, we can do a bit of wrestling.
Sounds like it's like getting ready to go out to dinner as well.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna go have a nice meal.
Gee, yeah. So what do you want to do? Do you want to like wrestle, or do you want to block? What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do?
I hate when you're undecisive.
Or, why do I
And then they
always have
break
to
up.
decide if we're going to wrestle or not?
Relationships getting too real now.
That's essentially what Blood Bowl is. It's a lifelong committed relationship.
The metaphor.
Yes. The Sage points out that we probably should mention that if you're watching Blood Bowl for the first, second, third time, or just tuned in for the World Cup and haven't decided if you want to get Blood Bowl 2 or not, it's a good time to do that now because it's 60% off during the, I would assume, the Steam Summer Sale. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which
means you also get the next 3 DLC races for free. The first one, the Norse, has already been released, so there are 3 more to go, if I remember correctly. I'm sure someone can correct me later on. Yeah, the ones coming up at some point in the future, Undead, Necro, and Nurgle. But if you haven't played much Blood Bowl, might not tell you much. Basically, more different teams to play.
Yeah, so right now it is $17.99 in dollars, so that is 60% off, down from 45. So pretty
so
good.
Much math in this stream.
Even figuring out the math is essentially just life.
Okay,
think about it.
Let's see what Mallak does here. Unfortunately, 3 KOs and 1 injury means that there are only 9 rats left on the pitch, the same amount as there are lizards. However, the lizards are a lot stronger than the rats, especially now when the gutter... Okay, and the reroll... Okay, so the reason that was slightly insane, not insane, but other than
risky.
Just risky, other than having the wild animal trait, the rat ogre also has a trait called loner, which means the rat ogre is only allowed to use a reroll if you first roll a die and that die is 4 or more, and you're only allowed to use 1 reroll per turn. If you fail that roll, the loner roll, the reroll is still eaten. So what happened during the block there was that the rat ogre rolled something the rat ogre didn't want. Mallak decided to use a reroll. First had to pass the loner roll, which happens 50% of the time, then gets to use a reroll. Which is risky, because normally it doesn't happen, and you're like, crap, I have to use these shitty dice that I don't want, and I lost a reroll.
I wonder how they interact with a loner player in the locker room. I wonder if he just like sits there with his Beats by Dre on, listening to music alone.
Probably.
That's how he gets pumped up.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's got his only friend is the little rat guy. Unless even the little rat guy doesn't like him. He's just there for kind of having a home.
It could just be that the little rat guy on top of him just tells the rat ogre that no one likes him. So it's not so much that the other people don't like him, it's just that he's it's basically the rat ogre's worm tongue.
He's like the demon on his shoulder.
Yeah, it's like, you know what? Maybe you should just sit here with your Beats by Dre. No one likes you because of your tail. Everyone trips over it. The only friend you have is me and this piece of cheese, and I'm holding the cheese.
That's true. He tempts him with the cheese. Oh my god, we're busting out some lore. Another rat down.
Yeah, and I mentioned earlier, well, before Mallak scored, that Guinness didn't have to... Oh, Bonehead, the Crocs here, the Lizardman big guy, also has a negative trait. Bonehead just means that you have to roll 2 or more on the die before you do anything. Roll the 1. So now the Croxigore just stands still and forgets what's what. Like,
Would you rather have Bonehead or Wild Animal?
Kind of depends on the team. I know I like Wild Animal, because one of the big differences between Bonehead and Wild Animal is that if you roll the 1 on Bonehead, you also lose that player's tackle zones, which means that if I'm standing next to a player with Bonehead and that player rolls a 1, so the player's boneheaded, I don't have to dodge away from the player. I can just move away. Like, it doesn't matter. Otherwise, every player has a tackle zone, and if you move out through that, you have to dodge. And not having any tackle zones also means that some other skills that the player might have might not work. Oh, more KOs.
Essentially, that Croxigore right now is just taking up a square, and that's all he's doing.
Yep. And the thing with Wild Animal is that you never lose your tackle zone. However, of course, Wild Animal means that it's a lot harder to move your big guy. So if you're playing a team where you want to blitz or block with your big guy a lot, I personally prefer Wild Animal. I think the smart choice is always going to be on Bonehead, though. I just still like Wild Animal.
Ever tell you the reason why I like Lizardmen so much?
Because they're blue?
Well, no.
Okay.
Well, a little bit. It's because back when I was in like 8th grade and we discovered Warhammer, I like was looking at the store and I was like, you know what I want to play? The Lizardmen. And so I spent like whatever money I had to buy like the little Lizardmen kit. And then I was very bad at painting them and putting them together. But what I did make, I was very excited. And I was like, wow, Lizardmen are awesome. And then me and my friends would always play, but never actually play because they were like in 8th grade and really bad at doing things. That's why I like Lizardmen.
Yeah,
that just so happened they were in the game.
It kind of... the reason I got into Blood Bowl, and this is also tabletop, was I had friends who played other type of tabletop games, like Games Workshop's 40K, which is a miniature war game. But of course, if you wanted to get into that, you had to buy so many pieces. Whereas with Blood Bowl, you only had to buy like 12. Like,
that's true.
12 pieces painted. Now I have a team. That's part of it. The other actual main part is that I really like the mechanic where you play with the same team over and over again, and you get to create these storylines with them. They level up and they get better. And then they die and you're really sad and they buy another line rat because who cares? But the fact that your team actually improves as you play more with them, they get more experience. I really like that aspect of Blood Bowl.
Yeah, you're able to add personality to the characters in the game, and then if they die, it's a very sad moment, and everyone either cheers because they're like, yeah, they're dead because they just love seeing things burn, or they're sad with you.
It's in tabletop. It used to be that I was like, I didn't name my players because it's tabletop. So you have a paper roster and then you just write out, oh, Wild Animal on the block. So also rolling 1. That means, but like I said, oh, that's not what the rats want. But the rat ogre still has guard, still has tackle zones.
That he does. I remember when I first played Blood Bowl, I was really excited because I always like sports. I'm like one of those people where I play video games, but I actually like sports in real life.
Wow.
And I enjoyed that it was... Oh no, that's a... Wait, he's got block.
No, that's the Gut Runner. The Gut Runner only has dodge. Just to interrupt your story even more, I just wanted... Lewpac pointed it out in our commentator chat that this is actually a pretty good example of how Mallak doesn't actually care that much if his players get hurt. He's based a bunch of players here, which means that a few of them might get knocked out here. Injury is actually kind of likely, but it means that the Lizardmen are probably not going to move very far because they have to deal with all of these rats and their tackle zones. Back to your, I'm sure, very sad story.
Very sad, very important story. Pretty much, I like Blood Bowl because it was sports, which I always enjoyed, but it like mixed in the fantasy element. And there's like very few games that actually combine fantasy and sports, or at least do it well, or as well as Blood Bowl. So it's just really cool to see that those two categories coming together.
Yeah, it's weird. For me, Blood Bowl has, like, there are a lot of satisfying things about Blood Bowl. It's really satisfying to actually murder your opponent's team, but it's also very satisfying to win once your team has been, like, half murdered. You're like, I only have 5 pieces left, but I still won. Because elves are great. Which is weird. I love elves or the elf teams in Blood Bowl, but anything else fantasy related, I'm like, elves are the worst. Hate them so much.
Yeah, I'm not really a fan of them in Blood Bowl either, not gonna lie.
What? Elves are really good in Blood Bowl.
I did have a really good Wood Elf team for a while that I liked, and then my tree died. And then it was all just downhill from there.
The Kroxigor boneheads once again, so that's 2 1-1s in a row. Now, that is just as likely as, you know, rolling anything else, because just having rolled a 1 the previous turn doesn't stop you from rolling 1 the turn after. That's not how random works. But it's, of course, it's at least I am. You're still like, I rolled 1 last turn. It's not going to happen again. That would be unfair. And then it happens. You're like, why is this happening to me?
Seems like the big guys are doing it too. That's like 3 big guy ones in a row.
Yeah, and it also kind of means that, like, most of these pieces here, like, yeah, there's a gutter runner who can fill out the back here, or no, a skink, and there's Gonad the barbarian who could possibly dodge out as well, but is probably not going to. Then there aren't any players left, which means that this cage by Guinness here, not really that secure, especially when there's a gutter runner with wrestle here in the back. Oh, yeah. So totally missed the Saurus. That was free there. He can get in here with a GFI, but probably
gotta
won't
roll
happen.
anything but a 1, right? It's easy. Very
yeah,
easy.
very
Nothing
easy.
goes wrong.
We've seen that not happen several times so far in this game. This is still not the hardest dodge for this gutter runner here. So
Yep.
well, oh,
Got it.
did it.
Very nice.
To be fair, I think Guinness is playing for the win here. If we look at how far away the skink here is from the end zone, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so
Pretty close.
he's 9 squares away, which means with 1 GFI, he could score next turn. Now, Guinness doesn't want to score. Well, he wants to score next turn because this is turn 15. So otherwise, he'll go into a third half. But Guinness' other problem is that when Guinness scores, the rats are going to have 1 turn left. And the rats, because their gut runners are so fast, they can do what's generally referred to as a 1-turn touchdown, which means you do a touchdown in 1 turn, which most teams can't, because it's very hard to do normally.
How exactly would you go about doing it?
You have to chain push, which means you push a piece into other pieces. If the 3 options you have for pushing someone, if all of them are occupied, then you get to push one of the pieces that are standing in the occupied spaces around. So you use that together with the Rat Ogre's Frenzy, normally. So you get some extra pushes, and then you try and push one of the really fast gutter runners 2 step up, because then there's only 11 spaces to the end zone, and a gutter runner can run that.
I see. I mean, I'd like to see that. I'd actually see it happen. 'Cause I don't think I've even seen that happen before.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Mallak did it in, was it the quarterfinals? I think he won a match by actually doing that, but I'm not 100% sure. Someone can probably correct me.
He could also get that 1 kickoff result. What is it? Lets you get downfield.
Yeah, so Sage points out that there's the skink here has diving tackle, but that doesn't actually affect. Well, there's a path for this wrestle gutter runner to get in there, so it shouldn't affect that actual. If we're going to see a blitz here, which we might also see this gutter runner running back.
I think he's gonna blitz with the storm vermin. He is...
Oh yeah, so I'm reading. Oh,
double skulls. He's got the reroll though.
Yeah. This is a question of do you? Oh, the reason he paused there is because I think Mallak at this point is kind of expecting Guinness to to actually score, and if that happens, then Mallak wants the reroll for his one turn attempt.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that reroll. Well, I mean, it's really easy to say after the fact that the reroll wasn't worth it, but it was definitely one of those cases where I'm like, is this really what I should be using this reroll for?
I think he just got caught up in it, and he just saw the double skulls, and it's like, I want to reroll that. And didn't really think it all the way.
Okay. That said, though, Spielberg has 9 squares to the end zone. That means that he can at most move 10 squares.
Yep.
That means that if you
He
run
has a
straight,
stink, however.
yeah, if you run straight down, it's fine. But currently, that path is blocked by a lot of things, and if he runs diagonally down on the left-hand side, if Worse Wages manages to remove the gutter runner, that's a possible way to do that, because then he could in theory just run past him and dodge, but he can't go straight to the left and then, well, he can go straight to the left 1 and then down, but he can't go back, for example, and then down, because then he doesn't have enough movement.
He gets a push.
Yep, so
Will it be a magical ending for Spielberg? We're about to find out, folks. This is gonna get crazy.
I'm assuming that it's Worse Wages here that's gonna try and block Lay, the gutter runner, to get Lay out of the way, and then possibly a run down.
Let's see.
Is there anything else doable here? I can possibly 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so the problem with the gutter runner that's straight kind of below here, scalp you, is that this gutter runner has not stand firm, but sidestep. So that means and dodge. So if Guinness was to blitz this gutter runner and not knock the gutter runner down, the gutter runner would still be a real nuisance and put tackle zones where Guinness doesn't want there to be tackle zones.
Yep. He knocks down that gutter runner. But now what does he do after that?
Well, I think the only thing he really can do here is to just run down with Spielberg. Has to dodge through a tackle zone for I wonder if it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so if the Worse Wages Saurus had blitzed instead, he could have moved the Saurus out of the way, and then the there we go. That's a 2 and a 1, and that means we are going to a third half, because Mallak has 1 turn, but there's no one on the Lizardman side of the pitch. Mallak can't score right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if Worse Wages had blitzed instead, then it could have been 2 GFIs rather than a dodge 3+ and then a GFI, I think.
Could he have even tried to blitz the gutter runner, even though he has blodge, or that have just been...
it's too risky.
Yeah. I mean, he did just roll a 2 and a 1. It was kind of bad luck.
to get rid of this gutter runner, to actually get rid of it, he would have had to roll the POW on the block die, and that's 1 and 6.
Yeah.
So that means, regardless of what happens here, we will be going to a third golden goal half, meaning if someone scores in that time, the first match is done. And unfortunately, Crendor, we are not casting that.
That is true.
It's sad, but VG Purist and Lewpac is coming in for that as soon as this this final turn, well, for the second half is over.
But we'll be back for game 2.
Yeah, we will. I'll be looking forward to game 2. I mean, I'm assuming after in game 2 we'll of course be going in with Mallak having won the first game because you know Lizardmen a bit shit. Oh, and a skull. Oh, and an injury. 3 rats don't want to be on the pitch anymore, and that's
strength point.
And that's the kick rat. That's actually a rat that Mallak probably would have wanted to keep. Now, unfortunately, a stat injury means that regardless, the rat is going to be out for the next game. And that's it. Dude. That's it for us. So
Mallak keeping 3 KOs.
Wow.
Knocked out though. That's a killer. And I think he wishes he kept that reroll now. As kKnoor and Crendor pointed out in the second half, it was quite surprising that he chose to use his final reroll on the double skulls, especially considering he might have needed the 1 turn to stay in the game.
You know what it is? Sometimes it's about feeling, and right there, he felt that he could put that defense up, and he felt the rolls weren't going to be good for the Lizard team, and here we are.
That's weird. It said 3 players stayed KO'd there, and then a load of them came back.
Yeah, actually, I thought I saw that too, but it looks like...
So that's
Skaven,
a blessing in disguise for the rats.
Mallak has hacked Blood Bowl. That's what he did.
Looks like Guinness gets to receive, so it's not over yet. However, I did really think the Lizards would take this second half comfortably. I didn't expect to see the 4% play from the Rats successful, steal the ball and score.
Yeah, I mean, I've played games before, and I can't tell you how many times that actually goes really badly for you. And it's just, for that to come through, and the ball placement, and also getting away from the diving tackle, is just a bloody miracle.
Yeah, he had a blinder, and again, you know, he didn't have the best dice in the first half, and he got the luck where he needs it. However, that was horrific for him. Last action of the regulation time, getting his kicker strength busted. We have seen that he's not afraid to keep a strength 2 line rat about, especially, I guess, if he's got the kick skill.
Doesn't the -1 strength take him out for the next game?
He will miss the next game, but he will be available for the potential 3rd game. So actually, there's no need currently to make a decision on sacking him until after the 2nd game, because it doesn't make a difference to his team value.
I would almost keep him, but
I think you have to at this point.
Yeah.
Kick is quite valuable against Lizards, especially if Lizards are trying to make a 1 turn. You want to make it as difficult as possible by kicking deep.
yeah, definitely. And it is going to be 1 less weapon for him to have if he didn't keep him, because if you want to be able to put the ball at some portion of the field, then maybe you can get lucky and get a blitz or something like that, or just a lot better control on the kick.
Somehow, these Lizards are going to have to cobble together a defense, and if Guinness gets the KO luck he had last time, knocking out Rats, then it could be huge. Interesting as well, the Rats actually got a reroll on the kickoff result, so they didn't get truly punished for their frivolous use of the final reroll. The last reroll any team has is always the most valuable. That is the one that you want to save for the absolute game-winning play. He obviously considered the double skulls from the Storm Vermin an important enough play to warrant it. I personally would have said save it for the 1 turn attempt. Turns out neither was required, as he got a free reroll anyway, and he didn't need to do the 1 turner.
Well, at least the Lizard team did get it on this kickoff, and so he does have the favor to win it. So come on, Guinness. You know.
Well, what we love about the overtime situation as well is it suddenly the whole stalling for the end of the half goes out the window, because you score, you win. There's no need to hang around. Whereas in regulation time, you want to burn up that clock, which is why you can see some boring stalling play, because it's important to give the opposition team as few turns as possible to reply in the half.
Well, we've seen a lot of action for this game so far. I mean, it just got me to the edge of my seat. I can't wait to see what the Lizard team's going to pull out here.
It's exciting stuff, and I wonder how much of his whiskey Guinness had to drink after that 4% ball steal and score. I imagine he took a big hard swig, and I imagine it was tough to swallow, as was the play. These rats are turning out to be trickier than a box of ferrets right now.
That's the scum right there poking through, where he just
chooses to take the Croxigore block before the pickup. I suppose technically, if you're not going to use the reroll, the Crocs block is safer. And he has screened off quite well for the ball.
Yeah, not one to have some gutter runners in the backfield.
Look at this though. All 3 line rats are tied up by the Crocs. That means they only dodge away on a 4+ right now.
That's the beauty of that Crocs, the prehensile tail, and also being that big presence in the middle. Very hard to stop. Rat Ogre's going to stay back though.
Maybe. I wouldn't actually be surprised to see the Rat Ogre attack the Crocs.
Simply
because it would free up 3 players. However, with the 2 block Saurus positioned to the side, there's no easy way in for the Rat Ogre.
I think right now the Skaven is just going to sit back and then wait until against the center and then get aggressive like he did before and just try something.
Skaven are 1 man down here, I believe, currently. So they have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The Lizards are only fielding 9 because they don't play. No, they're fielding 10 because their KO woke up, actually. So both teams are fielding 10 men.
Yeah, if you're going to be playing Skaven, you better be used to playing down 1, 2, maybe even 3 rats. Because that's going to happen a lot. Oh, yes, he's going to go aggressive in the beginning. Okay.
So the line rats stand up to receive their punishment. Now this is the question. Does the Rat Ogre commit to trying to chin the Saurus here? And this is what we were saying. Mallak not afraid to throw his players.
He's extremely tenacious. Extremely tenacious.
He's obviously
with his defense.
He's being careful to make sure that his dodge players only go up against the Saurus with no block. So here we go. He isn't going to go for the Rat Ogre. He's going to try and take out Darkness Shadows, Saurus number 6. He knocks him. He breaks armor. It is only a stun, but that will mean the Saurus is not in for the next turn, and it will give the rats some positional space here. Chooses to move his Rat Ogre onto the Croxigore to enable the line rat to make a 2 dice block, potentially knocking the Croxigore on his bum. That would give the middle of the field control to the Skaven.
That will give the Lizard team something to think about too. They're not going to be able to move their offense quite as well as they thought they would have before.
He's also pressuring the Skinks. So he gets a turnover. He cannot afford a reroll on that. Luckily for him, the line rat did not come off worse. That's very bad. 7. That's very bad for the line rat generally. But the Crocs didn't do the damage and gets back up, passes his bonehead check.
Oh, man. You know, usually that Mighty Blow, armor value 7, so much damage could be caused upon that line rat. And there you go. No armor value breaks as of yet. I can't believe this.
These seem some very resilient rats. I mean, the injury on kKnoor, the kicker, was actually done by himself on a block, not the Lizards. And I believe it was the Croxigore that injured the Storm Vermin.
Oh, gosh. And now the Lizard team has to make some sort of cage.
I don't think they've got too much of a problem. There seems to be a fair bit of space on the left-hand side. They might not be looking to make too much progress this turn because of the stunned Saurus, leaving them with only 4 Saurus and a Croxigore. Again, there's two ways that a Lizard team falls apart. They lose a couple of Saurus and their strength advantage is diminished and they get overrun, or they lose their Skinks and their ball handling ability is gone. And depending on the team you're playing, you deal with Lizards in different ways. However, in this matchup, 1 Saurus is not critical. If he lost 2 or even 3, he'd actually fall apart because of the 2 guard on the opposition team.
Yeah, usually he has all these Saurus on the field, and actually, whenever he had gotten that Saurus injured, Dragon's Fire, it just seems like from there, it felt like it's just been downhill. Not straight downhill, but just enough to where you see that the Skaven just has a chance now at winning the ball game.
I'm not sure he played that final turn optimally. I think with the reroll in hand, the double go for it play would have been better than trying to get through the sidestep.
Yeah, I mean, I know that maybe he was trying to move that Dragonflyer's Lizardsaurus out the way, but it's just, I would say prove it. Just if he gets surfed out, he gets surfed out.
So it looks like he is looking to set up on the left. There's a 9-space cage which he can comfortably reach with all his players. He may have to make a dodge to do so, though. No, okay, he's going to cage up.
No, he's going to cage up.
He's going to cage up a bit further back. However, this is going to enable the Rat Ogre to come into play if he knocks down the Crocs. In fact, the Line Rats could actually blitz the Crocs, enabling the Rat Ogre to punch into the cage. This is where you'd love to see a break tackle Rat Ogre.
Oh, yeah.
Just slamming into the cage every time, because it would be, if you mark the outsides, it's 3 dice on the ball, and whatever happens, the Rat Ogre's stuck in the middle.
At least he has a shot, you know, the weak side here. That Rat Ogre can probably get through and really threaten that ball carrier.
Going into game 2, I would definitely like to see Mallak focus more on taking out the skinks as early as possible. Looks like a gutter runner is going to be knocked to the floor. Sweet, sweet vengeance making the hit. Again, the indestructible Mallak and his invincible Armor 7 gutter runners survive. We saw them take a 3-match onslaught, including double overtimes, I think.
Yeah, 2 double overtimes against the Dwarves, and they were not able to get too many injuries on them, the Dwarves on the Skaven team, and it seems like that's going to happen again.
I would like to see him make the block here with the Line Rat, because the opportunity is there, and then he can bring the Rat Ogre into the cage. If he does successfully get the Rat Ogre into the cage, expect him to start throwing bodies at every player he can mark. That's how he'll force the error. That's how he'll force the dodge. Remember, the 1 in 9 failure actually becomes a 25% failure. Another turnover from the Line Rat. Will he re-roll this? This is.
I don't think so.
I think he has to.
Oh,
I think he has
okay.
to, because he's giving up too much space if he doesn't. Look at the space down the left-hand side. And
Yeah,
remember,
he
he does not need to save a re-roll for a 1-turner, because there is no opportunity. It's a golden goal situation. There is no 1-turn opportunity. So I agree with that re-roll 100%.
Yes.
This does mean that it's quite risky with the Rat Ogre. He doesn't want to commit to marking until he knows the Rat Ogre is in the cage. However, with no reroll in hand, he has to commit now. So we're going to see him throw some serious bodies at these Saurus.
One of the things I've seen from Mallak's play is just he usually comes up with these really great defense with the Skaven, even with 9 rats down, or just down to 9 rats or 8 rats. Just seems like he always finds a way to get something
I'm very
going.
surprised with that. I am very surprised with that.
Wow.
The reason I don't like blocking that skink is because he can use sidestep now to drag the Rat Ogre out of the cage, and that's exactly what he does. Yep. So all of the benefit there. Not only would he have knocked over the Saurus if he blocked the Saurus, but he would have the tail on the ball. The sidestep skink chooses where he gets blocked to, and so he's able to use the sidestep against the frenzy and actually drag the Rat Ogre out of the cage. So everything he wanted to achieve there, he just failed by blocking the sidestepper.
That small little thing right there, but it could lead to disaster because, yeah, you're right.
It's a tiny little play, and it's a tempting play because you get 3 dice. You get 3 dice on the skink, but it cost
I can't blame him. I can't blame him, but at the same time, look at this. Position is not as good as it would have been.
And diving tackle, doing some work.
And he wanted to put that Skaven, I betcha, at the back tail of that skink.
So, Lizard's turn. They're going to look to punch through these line rats. They might even look to reposition on the right-hand side now.
Or the skink can just go Batman, go down the left side.
I don't think he can with those gutter runners there.
Yeah.
He could put the diving tackle onto one of those gutter runners, but he's also got to consider that the gutter runner that he just tripped over is in a scoreable position once he's not stunned anymore. Okay, so he knocks over the Storm Vermin, Snow Trapper. He does break armor. No injury though, just a stun. So this, to me, the blitz over there shows that I think he's going to commit to the right-hand side now.
Yeah. That is the weaker side, and that's the beauty about playing with the Lizard team. Everybody's so quick. You can just cage up again, move to the right side, switch sides on them. Game will be able to keep up, though, but...
The Skaven can keep up, definitely, but at some point, they're going to have to dodge some line rats to get them over there, because he can't do it all with 4 gutter runners.
And use that stun to his advantage right there.
Okay, so it looks like he's going to cage. Now that that guy's stunned, it looks like he's going to cage inside with the Croxagore, potentially. Although I'm not quite sure how he's going to finish the cage on the right-hand side. Nope, he's... Okay, he's using that skink to prevent the sidestep play. Because if he only pushes the blodge guy, he could sidestep his way into the ball, which would not be good. So he blocks the gap with a skink so that the sidestep cannot get onto the ball. He covers the back with his dive and tackle skink. Again, if that rat ogre had break tackle right now, there would be some plays. There would be some plays.
Yeah, we would see some magic.
I'm not sure I like this though from Guinness. I think I'd want to make more progress while there's 2 stunned Skaven. I think that's a great opportunity. You're basically 8 against 10 right now for position on the field.
One of the things about Guinness's play is that sometimes he changes gears. You know, we've seen him just go all out, especially against Spartaco, but here he changes gears and just wants to play solid and just wants to play disciplined Blood Bowl at this point and just wait it out. I mean, he's no rush right now, but it's just, yeah, you're right. I would like to see a little bit more of aggressive play, but it works out. Oh.
Okay, so he doesn't knock down the sidestepper here. And he chooses to wedge himself in front of the ball. However, the gutter runner's not going to be able to achieve a lot in his current position. Especially with Mallak having 0 rerolls right now. Guinness is on top with a reroll in hand. He still has 5 turns to score, and that skink can reach the end zone in 2 turns quite comfortably. So there's no need for him to potato upfield right now. He can take his time. However, I do believe that 2 stunned opposition is a good opportunity to make some progress. He's going to trap Finch on the sideline and force him to make an unfavorable 3+ dodge to get out.
Gutter runner is just standing in the front of the cage with his arms open like, stop!
Yeah, but a blodge step gutter runner can cause a lot of problems when you haven't got tackle. If you don't knock him down, he can just eat up blocks, and every block that he stays on his feet is a win.
It could happen, but just one gutter runner.
If he survives 2 blocks and goes down on the 3rd, that's still a success because he's taken 3 blocks to remove the 1 guy.
Looks like he's totally thrown out the Batman option. I don't blame him, of course. I wouldn't do it either. I've decided to call potato plays Batman plays because he now will be alone and left to his own devices.
Right. So what do the rats do there? What is the likely play? I mean, he could attempt another of his casual 5+ dodges from the top left, but it's a bit of a run. And his receiving threat is stunned currently. His rat ogre might try and hit the sidestepper again, but he will only get himself into more trouble as the sidestepper decides where to lead him. He has to be very careful as well, in my opinion, because if he fails something, his gutter runner more or less is guaranteed to be surfed. And with no rerolls in hand, everything is a risk right now.
Yeah, if he fails one anything, that gutter runner gets surfed. Skink runs out of there. I mean, this is such a precarious position that the Skaven team's in at the moment.
This is horrible. And I see why Guinness decided to stay where he was, because the pressure's all on the Skaven. Both of their block guys are out of action, 1 permanently for this game and 1 stunned. So they have no safe options. Everything they do is a 1 in 9, except for the Rat Ogre, which is a 1 in 27 failure chance.
What is it, like in chess? It's like a Zugzwang? Like anything you do is almost a tough choice.
There you go. Interestingly, he chooses to dodge the gutter runner first rather than get him surfed. He still has all 4 gutter runners on the pitch, which is how Skaven make the magic happen. But he's going to need some of that magic ASAP if he wants to keep this game.
I almost feel like this is the first time in a long time that he's had the 4 gutter runners and the rat ogre on the pitch.
Well, quite often the rat ogre's been on the floor or tied up unfavorably, and I still consider him tied up unfavorably because at the moment they're trading a skink for a rat ogre, which is a good trade for the lizards because they have 4 skinks on the pitch.
It's all good until the rat ogre wrecks the skink with a defender down dice.
I don't think he wants to risk a 1 dice with his gutter runner onto the loner skink. It is only a 1 in 6 failure chance. However, should he roll that skull, he leaves himself wide open for the push through.
Such an enormous amount of pressure right now. I mean,
Well, he's spent 3 minutes and has barely rolled a dice yet apart from the dodge. So he's really weighing up his options. Looks like he's going to try and blitz. He's going to try and blitz the Blocksaurus on the left-hand side. However, this is probably just going to push the lizards down the right, where they'll continue to leverage the strength of the Saurus against the speed of the rats. And he's, again, he's just not afraid to throw these bodies, is he?
well, I mean, at this point, he knows he's so close to
Oh,
winning.
we're going to see a mighty blow. We're going to see a mighty blow on the
There
side
we
stepper.
go.
This could be good.
This could be
This gonna be good.
this.
Someone call the stretcher. It's a
Just the
knockout.
KO.
It's a knockout. Now remember, skinks do have the stunty trait, which means all injuries are effectively +1 on them. So when you couple it with mighty blow, it's double the effect.
He
It's
thought long and
+2.
hard about
It's
that
pl-
apothecary.
It means a 6 is a KO and an 8 is an injury. So they're more likely to leave the pitch than they are to stay on the pitch.
Yeah, the middle section just shifts over 1 down.
So I think that's really good for Mallak and means that he is going to put a little bit of pressure on them here.
There you go. He blew up that sidestep skink that was pretty much holding up that rat ogre. So now, I think.
Well, the rat ogre's still tied up on a Saurus. That's not ideal. So as we said, he's going to go for the blitz on the skink. It seems that's interesting.
Yes.
Now I expect to see him pull his gutter runner backwards potentially, just to cover the potato dash. Or maybe he will leave him in to try and get in the ball. No, he does just pull him back to cover.
Right. Smart, safe plays.
And I think poor old number 10 line rat, I think he is going to be asked. He was saying, you could see on his face there, he was saying, coach, come on, I'll try the dodge. I don't mind trying this dodge. But the coach says, no, sir, cut. I'm afraid in this situation, the big lizard is going to have to punch you in the face. There's nothing we can do about it. It's just how it is.
He's like, that gonad the barbarian's knocked out. You will take the hit now.
He's like, no, honestly, boss, I don't mind doing a dodge. I'm up for it. No.
That's what line rats are for, though.
You're
Come on.
taking the hit. Poor fella. That is the position that no one wants to be in. Armor 7 with a big lizard about to punch you in the face.
He's hoping like crazy. Look, come on, Bonehead, please.
I actually think with all these Saurus tied up, there's only one free Saurus. So the lizards will struggle to make any progress because obviously they're worried about just getting the ball sniped and stolen by gutter runners.
Oh, man. I mean, you could try for a half cage, and I hate half cages, but maybe like a crazy handoff or something. But he does love Sierra, so it could possibly have some sort of a play that way, but I don't know how risky he wants to take it.
I don't think he's going to want to take... I mean, from what we saw last turn, not taking advantage of the double stun, I don't think he's going to do anything too wild right now.
I agree.
But his turns are ticking. Goes for the Crocs. Opens with the Crocs on the line rat. That to me says that he's already decided that he's not re-rolling anything this turn. However, I still would have preferred to have seen the 2 dice with block onto the gutter runner, things like that beforehand. But if he's opening with the Crocs, that means he's committed to not re-rolling anything block-wise.
Oh,
I mean, he's got 3 blocks on the line rats to the left. He's got a 3 block on the gutter runner to the right. Both gutter runners, in fact.
He's got an opening. I don't know if he's going to take it, but it's just looking so juicy down that right side, doesn't it?
But is it though? Because look at the position of the 3 gutter runners.
Oh, I know, but
All
I mean,
3 of them are in a position to escape.
how long can you play this defensive type offense? You know, it's just, you know, how long can you just hold the ball?
And this is Mallak, you know, not afraid to throw his players in the danger zone. Danger zone! But he is riding on his armor a little bit. You know, this could be a lot worse right now. He could be down to 4 players the way he's been throwing them in there. And time after time, we've seen those gutter runners soak up hits.
We'll see how he wants to play this, but
Is he gonna do it? Kenny Loggins, danger zone. Are we gonna get some danger zone, boys?
Kenny Loggins.
Kenny Loggins! Is it?
Oh yes, he's
headed into the danger zone.
He's gonna go in Maverick style. Oh, I'm gonna throw in some references now. There you go.
So he's gonna have to blitz with Sweet Vengeance in order to cover himself. Yeah. So he does, and he does get a POW.
No, my
Will the
gosh.
armor 7?
Clutch plays.
The armor 7 fails, and he's gonna have a full cage.
That's gonna be great for him. He will be able to cover up.
Providing he doesn't double skull this block here, which he does not.
He does not. So now he'll be able to cover up, and he is in scoring range.
He's also great positionally because look, both those line rats on the left are tied up by a Saurus. Both the line rats in the middle are tied up. The Blodgestep gutter runner is on prehensile tail, and he gets another gutter runner down. Will he get an armor break again? He does not, but that does severely limit the mobility of gutter runner.
Oh, that right there. Anytime you can take down a gutter runner, you do it because
I think this turn was game, in my opinion.
He's going to have to jump in. He's going to have to jump through the cage.
I believe the rats are in trouble now.
They are in tremendous trouble. One more turn away from just scoring it if he wants to do those go for it rolls. And he can because he's got a re-roll. I think the gutter runner's going to have to jump in there.
Talking of danger zones, you know how much I love the TV show Archer? My daughter is actually named Lana.
Oh, no.
Yeah, well, not specifically after that, but it's a happy coincidence. So, the skink is 1 GFI from giving game 1 to Guinness. The tension is building, and the rats have to do something. It has to be now. It has to be this turn. They have no rerolls. They have no time. And they don't have many options. But Mallak is going to have to find a way into this cage and onto the ball.
Like Goonies, okay? This is our time. Our time is now.
He cannot rely on a 1 in 9 from the rats again. He got lucky last time.
Oh, it's just too bad the wrestle one is all the way up.
No, because he's the receiver. He's the one that they're going to throw the ball to. After they make the crazy play, he gets the ball.
Well, I know that, but it's just that, you know, he should be the one jumping into the cage.
No, but you know, all you have to do is roll a POW, and it's fine.
Oh, yeah. Defender down dice. Roll that every day.
But how does he go in? Where does he go in? I guess he has to go from the north with the dodge guy. Yep, he's going to go from the north.
There we go. Yeah, he's coming.
He's failed the first dodge, though, so it's down to a 5+. He's failed.
Yeah, he doesn't even have it. And there it is.
And look at that, there was a pair of 1s anyway coming up on the dice.
And now, does he go for it? I don't know. Is anyone in range afterwards? He doesn't even need to do the go for it roll, huh?
No, I think he probably will here. Well, no, I guess he doesn't technically have to, but it's a 1 in 36 to not have the ball. But if he moves the other skinks first, he's not in much danger anyway.
Yeah, and truthfully, the way that Guinness has played this game so far, it's just, you know, if he doesn't fail to go for a roll and makes this touchdown, it almost seems like he should have won this game earlier, barring that.
Yeah, but I think Mallak's defense was very solid. I I think he made it
Tenacious.
as difficult as possible, and he actually got Guinness to make the mistake, which cost him on the 1 in 9.
Definitely.
I mean, with this much on the line, it's probably not worth taking the 1 in 36. You probably just wait one more turn, because if you look at it, the gutter runner can reach you, but if you make it so he has to run through the diving tackle, it's very unlikely.
Right. And Sage is saying, no GFI. But, you know, I know Guinness's personality. I think I see it, you know.
I
He's
think I see it as well.
I think he's going to defy it. He's just like,
Guinness-
whatever.
yeah.
I'm
And who-
jumping in there.
We say it time and time again. Who are we to tell them how to play? They're in the World Cup final. We're not.
Exactly. And I think we're going to see
Come
it.
on.
but-
Do it.
Come on.
Do it. Do
Ah.
it or no balls.
No, come on, Guinness. Don't
Click
do me
it.
like that.
Click it. The whiskey. He hasn't had enough whiskey. He's bottled it.
Oh,
Okay.
he didn't no go for it.
He's going to leverage the diving tackle here. It's still going to be very difficult.
Yeah, it'll still be very difficult, and I think the only person here is going to be that gutter runner. But I mean, he will be able to get a block off.
The gutter runner is the only guy in range. He's going to have to dodge through the diving tackle, though, most likely. And he's going to have to get away from the prehensile tail. And that is assuming that he doesn't get punched in the face in a minute. Because the Croxicor's about to punch him in the face.
Crocs is readying. He's like, you see these?
I think he's
fingers?
probably going to take... I think he's probably going to use Quester of Glory first so that he can get 3 dice with the Crocs. That would be my play, because the other gutter runner is not a problem. Both down gutter runners are not a problem. So I would aim to get 3 dice here on the only gutter runner that can get in range.
Oh, I think the Crocs is saying to the gutter, "Hey, you hungry? I got a knuckle sandwich." Sorry, these are all the things that was said to me during my high school years. I've heard it all, guys. They still think it's funny. They still think it's funny.
So he might actually just look to knock Surgcut, the lineman, out the way with the Saurus, and then create an even longer path for the gutter runner. He could also make it so that he has to dodge into a tackle zone. So yeah, it does look like the Crocs is going to hit Surgcut.
Yeah, and that's actually the better choice.
He does follow up, which means the gutter runner is completely trapped now.
Yeah.
And remember, if Sweet Sweet Vengeance moves over, the gutter runner can only just reach the ball. He cannot afford to take a step backwards, so it basically makes it physically impossible for him to reach the ball. And
Yeah,
in my
we've seen
opinion,
him, man.
that's the best play. Just make it physically impossible for him to reach the ball.
Good plays here. He's gonna go and hit the
Yeah.
line right away.
Mm-hmm.
Injury.
Oh, there's an injury. 2
Oh.
Saurus SPP, and that is going to be a level up for that Saurus, I believe.
And a
Oh, no,
minus 1 in armor value.
He already got it, actually. I thought he was on 4. He must have been on 2.
So even more so, that's going to set up for the next game as well, because
Yeah. I mean, generally, rookie line rats taking injuries is not a problem. However, when you have a sub bench, if you don't have the money to replace them, then it becomes a problem. If you only have 11 players, losing a rookie line rat is not a problem, because you get given a loner for free who's only slightly worse. If you're playing a 13-man bench, you take an injury, you have to replace that player, you don't get a free one, you're just reduced to a 12-man bench. And playing with 12, or even worse, 11 players is not where Skaven want to be.
now making it more of a miracle. Now he's got to make more crazy dodges through.
This game is pretty much guaranteed to be going Guinness.
Somebody do the math.
1-0.
Chat, I leave it up to you. Math, please.
Leroy Jenkins is giving it a 3.1% chance of success here.
3.1. Never tell me the odds.
And he doesn't even choose to hit the Rat Ogre. So it's YOLO dodge from the gutter runner here. He could dodge the other one first, just on the off chance. But
he's-
again, if he fails any of Finnick's go for it, he's in trouble. And the worst thing is, if he makes this dodge and he rolls a 6, then he knows that he would have had a really good roll. So he had a 5. He would have made his first dodge roll, I believe.
Right. Don't you hate
Yeah.
that? It's just you're taking away all your great
Yeah,
dice.
don't roll your good dice first.
Just do it.
Would you? You might even take the Rat Ogre block first, just to try and do a bit of damage here, because the play is so unlikely to succeed that a bit of damage on the Saurus actually seems quite tempting.
Yeah, why not? I mean, it's such a low percentage of him actually converting.
But he rolled a 6. He's used up a 6 as well.
Oh my gosh! Come on, man! Don't you know you're supposed to conserve die? Wow, he does the hits.
He doesn't do the damage. So this is it. Moment of truth. Can
Here it is.
Scalfage save the game, or will he end up face down in the dirt, or worse, injured? Does he even risk it? Does he risk his best gutter runner here? I think with $4,500 on the line, he doesn't want to let game 1 go to a whimper. I think he has to go for the glory here. It's going to be at least a 5+ dodge into another 5+ dodge.
Yeah, into another 5+. 4+. Oh my.
He's made
He's
one
got
dodge.
it.
He's gone backwards. Why has he gone backwards? That doesn't help. You can't do anything.
He's giving it up. That's it. He's not even gonna try.
No.
That's it.
That's a shame. So game 1 will be going the way of Guinness.
If it was a single elimination, oh hell yeah, he would have done it. But best of 3, he's gonna conserve his gutter runner and go into game 2 with all
three dice on a gutter runner. I think you do. I think you do here with a reroll in hand.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Royal skulls into royal skulls. I do not think.
What's the chances of Trey skulls into Trey skulls? I don't even want to do the math. That's impossible.
He's going to try and hit the wrestle one. He's going for the most valuable one. He won't use a reroll here, though, unless it's a turnover. I believe. He'll just take the first set of dice, and he is rewarded with a POW.
There we go.
Will he get this damage? This could be huge. He's got the injury. Oh, my God.
Oh, and he got it.
No
nice.
long term.
Ugh.
That is 2 more SPP on the
2
Saurus.
SPP, yes.
So he was rewarded for his greed. Now Spielberg, the skink, number 12, will be running it in. He will not level up, but it will put him within level up range should he receive an MVP.
A well-played game by both of these coaches right here. I mean, just great, tenacious defense.
There's actually 3 Saurus, plus the Crocs, plus the skink with the ball. All of them will level up should they receive the MVP. So there's roughly, it's just below a 50-50 chance. And he does a little dance, runs it in. Game 1 goes the way of Guinness. He takes a 1-0 lead in this World Cup final series and edges himself ever closer to the $4,500 grand prize, as well as a new gaming PC.
Guinness, you madman. Oh. Congrats on game 1, buddy.
Hopefully game 2 will be just as exciting. We'll be here with all the post-match talk in just a second.
Stay tuned for more from us. We have a surprise coming up, surprise announcement. Oh, isn't that right, Lou?
It is. After the break, we'll be having a quick chat about the game and we'll be going to a short break. And we have a big Blood Bowl 2 announcement coming to you after the break. I will reveal all. Looks like Quester for Glory, Saurus number 2, gets the MVP. So we might see a Tackle Saurus. We might see a Guard Saurus. We might see a Break Tackle Saurus. We might even see a Mighty Blow Saurus. The options are endless. What will he choose? My money's on Tackle, but there's so many options.
There's so many options. I think in his case, he's probably going to take Break Tackle, but I mean,
I like Mighty Blow. I like Mighty Blow.
You like Mighty Blow?
I think put it to them. Just put them to the sword.
Mighty Blow. I mean, armor value 7. This is the last game. Why not? Why not?
I'm with Lewpac on this one. Mighty Blow all the way.
Yeah, against the majority armor 7 team, even the Rat Ogre's quite fragile. I like block Mighty Blow. Just start beating people up.
Oh,
and it gives you a more reliable blitzing piece for every single turn.
Alright YouTube, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, remember to leave it a thumbs up at the bottom. And of course, if you'd like to see more videos, do check out the channel and hit subscribe on your top right.